Disclaimer, I don't know who the hell this guy is. In Praise of Shadows. He's a movie-oid. Why is Wendigoon in the thumbnail? Because Wendigoon gets talked about. Many people get talked about. We're at 1.5 speeds, by the way. And I believe the man comes in now.
Over the weekend, February 16th through the 18th, I traveled to Concord, North Carolina to attend this year's Mad Monster Party, which was far and away the most redneck and unprofessional convention that I'd ever been to in my life. There was
Unprofessional, I can tolerate, but redneck? A redneck convention?
at this level of scale. The only thing that I could really compare it to for you is that it felt like something that was being run by that guy at your local small-town comic book store that had somehow gotten out of hand. The reason for my visit was due to a large amount of negative attention that the convention had received surrounding their headlining guest of honor, the alleged rapist, Kevin Spacey. But before we get to that, I think that we should talk about the convention.
I feel like you should say alleged gay rapist, specifically. Not for homophobic purposes, but really for the opposite. How often do we hear about gay rapists? This is like a matter of representation.
Itself, because once I arrived there, I realized very quickly how these conditions resulted in a Spacey invitation, as everything in the way that this was conducted is like the epitome of a misguided and mismanaged mess. Now, booking Spacey is, in any sense of public optics, a very dumb idea, and you could try to write these people off as just straight-up morons, but they fully understood what they were doing, as on all of their public advertisements, they just happened to forget to include Spacey along with all of the faces of the other big guests.
I would assume that the inclusion of Spacey would be to deliberate, he says they know what they're doing, so they hid him. Wouldn't it be they know what they're doing, they want to invite controversy? This part already makes me think I don't connect with him. I don't understand where he's coming from. Don't they want trouble? Surely it's obvious. You have Spacey as your headliner, you're gonna get heat. And they got heat, and it was all over the news.
I know that they had to spin this. First of all, I arrived at the convention and their small main parking lot was already filled, and they gave me directions to their overflow parking area that upon arrival I realized was well over half a mile away from the event, and that they had arranged no shuttle services whatsoever, meaning that I had to walk down a dirt trail that had large rocks in it in the February.
Oh no! Mundane Matt could be anywhere. There were boulders everywhere. Ah! Please, for the love of God, don't mention. Imagine if I needed a wheelchair.
Very cold to get back to their main building, which, was fine for me. I'm in relatively good health. But
But if I'd weighed 1 pound more, I couldn't have made it half a mile. It's like when people complain about a venue not having, you don't have ramps onto the stage, you don't have this, you don't have that. And you're like, well, did you need it? No. Did anyone there need it? No. Are you sure they didn't have it if you ask? No, because I didn't ask.
You can't expect all guests who want to attend your public event to be able to physically do that. At night, I then had to walk the same trail back to my car in pitch black darkness, which is just a lawsuit waiting to happen.
In America, yeah, but I feel like that's an indictment of the culture and legal system rather than an inherent issue with the convention. If a guest to your event having to park half a mile away and there are some rocks on a trail and that would be a liability and you might get sued for that, that's an indictment of the culture and the country and the legal system.
I'm not someone to ever actually make a complaint about something like that, but the reality of the situation is...
You just did, brother. You better believe we're living in it.
The not providing shuttle services to guests who can't walk when you make them park so far away.
He's doing the thing. He actually did the thing. Did that actually happen? Does he know for a fact there was no accommodation for those people? No accommodation made if it was required? Did he check?
Immediately makes you seem totally unprofessional. When I finally got inside to purchase a weekend ticket at the front desk, they tried to put a paper wristband on me. I tried to click.
Do you know how frail my skin is? Paper could slice me right up. They were trying to kill me. They were trying to slit my wrists with stiff card.
Clarify saying that I didn't want a day pass, I wanted the weekend pass. And they said that that was the weekend pass. I asked if they didn't have.
Good. You know what? Environmentally conscious, recyclable wrist ticket.
Any security badges, which are the norm for essentially any con of this size, and they said no. They instead expected me to wear this paper wristband at all times for 3 days straight. By the second day, it was falling apart because I had taken a shower and it became very soggy and uncomfortable to wear. There were no posted schedules of.
You know this guy ran his wrist under the shower that night. Come on.
The events anywhere in the building. I asked the front desk if they had any printed flyers or brochures of when the Q&A events were going to be held, and they told me no. They had nothing printed, and that the only way to find out what time things were happening was to go to the Mad Monster website and find their schedule there.
Okay, yeah, right. He's right. There's definitely an aura of shoddiness. His tone isn't matching the way in which it's trash. there's such a... How do I explain this? I'll watch some more and see if I can put my finger on exactly what I mean.
At their Q&A events, the first 10 rows of the auditorium were reserved...
Like, he just is a big f***ing wet nerd. I don't know how to explain it. I want to bully him. He jokes about this being, it's run by local comic book nerd, sweatoid, fatty. You're like a low-T version of the comic book guy from The Simpsons complaining about it. So this con was a perfect match for you, brother.
For VIP ticket holders only. The problem with that is that next to nobody purchased the VIP tickets, which resulted in the celebrities being separated from the audience by 10 mostly empty rows, really killing any kind of ability for the guest to build any kind of energy with the crowd, resulting in the panels being painfully...
This con sucked. The guest didn't build any energy with me. I brought my finest J.O. crystal. His tone is like too placid as well. If you're gonna pick apart something for being a little bit crummy, having lots of little flaws, I think you have to go, BAM! Fire! Look at this trash! You have to burn it to the ground. You have to, go full in high energy. If you're gonna have this placid tone, you have to be talking about something serious. Not about, a few seats not being filled. Not about having to walk half a mile to the convention.
Awkward at times. Also because the guests were not actually really that famous, which we're gonna get to. The audience often just didn't have any questions for them because they didn't know who they were. So most of the
Yeah, it's pretty cringe.
Q&As only lasted for about 20 minutes or so, even though they had all been scheduled for an hour.
Damn! The Q&A sucked and was torture, and it was short. That's a bit, right? That's like a joke. This Q&A was terrible. We didn't know who the person was. We didn't have anything to ask them. It was really boring, and it only lasted 20 minutes. Idiot. Man, this restaurant sucks. The food tastes like literal human shit, but at least the portions are huge and I was full.
Eat before I got there the first day and expected to buy a snack at some point while I was there, and was very upset to learn that there was only an alcohol stand in the convention floor, and no food whatsoever. So I didn't end up eating until about 10 p.m. later that night. The next day I did actually learn that
literal baby? A 3-hour video about how this man can't feed himself. Let's go! It's so good! It's so good! Hey, I heard that a gay rapist was going to be at this convention, so I went there and then I couldn't feed myself and it wasn't very good. Damn, you're a retard. Nice! What is this video?
There was a food area for the con set up in the lobby of the hotel next to the convention, but there were no signs telling you of this, and it was very much hidden. Luckily, the first night after having a late dinner,
they hid nutrients from me. I couldn't handle it. I couldn't feed myself. Hello, Tim. Quick question. How can you call anyone a nerd wearing this glasses? Curious, Takes one to know one. I think this counts as expertise, or at least an example of my expertise. You f***ing imbecile. How can you call someone a nerd when you're a huge nerd? I know all about being a f***ing nerd, you dipshit.
I could relax in the indoor pool that my hotel was advertised as having, which was just magnificent. Although, I guess I can't blame that on Mad Monster. Now, okay, first off, the argument should be made that even if the past 10 years of his life had not happened, should Kevin Spacey himself be the headlining guest at a horror convention in the first place?
I'd say the past 10 years of his life make him the ideal guest. Isn't it creepy? He could be anywhere. The men's bathroom should be fogged up so you can't see him coming. Scariest piss of your life. And you have to fully disrobe before entering the men's room.
Most people, if you ask them what horror movies Spacey had been in, would probably space on an answer, which that answer being is that he has been in exactly one horror film, Seven, which was the primary visual theme of the convention.
What's in the
box? They really emphasized that they had gotten Spacey as a guest by having all of the staff at the convention being marked by having these bright red shirts on them that read, "What's in the box?"
I like that this shirt looks like it says stiff.
Photo ops with him were a staged event with a desert backdrop, where you could get on your knees in front of Kevin Spacey, with your head...
That's really good, though. That's really funny. This convention f***ing rules. Convention where you go and you pay to get a picture taken of you on your knees in front of Kevin Spacey? That f***ing rules. That's so good.
Through a hole that they had cut in a cardboard box that he was holding. You can't actually make that up. People were lined up for hours over the course of 3 days.
You can, and they did, and it rules.
To pay Kevin Spacey, whose assets are estimated to be worth between $16 and $20 million, $300 each to get on their knees in front of him. After the announcement in January of his inclusion...
Brother, you paid to be there too! You didn't pay for that service, but you heard he was going to be there and you went there. Dare I say, you're almost consuming it in the intended manner. They're definitely farming outrage with that inclusion. Is he gonna complain about his knees hurting? They didn't even give me any knee pads, which I'm used to having in this situation.
At the convention, Mad Monster, as most people sadly do when they are being publicly criticized, refused to cancel Spacey's appearance, instead deciding to double down and buckle up for a rough ride. They stopped.
Sadly, when a convention is criticized, they don't immediately do what the public wants. The masses want. Right. But they didn't back down. They included Spacey, and people were paying $300 a pop to have a photo taken with him. So I don't know how that convention went overall in terms of financial success. Perhaps overall it was a mistake, but at least in terms of knowing people want to spend money on that. Hey, you specifically went because he was there, brother, is all I'm going to say.
Posting on their Twitter and locked all of their comments, instead deciding to focus their promotion on the more pedestrian and less socially vocal social media platforms, like Facebook and Instagram. On those platforms.
Facebook? No. Does he go on Facebook? Facebook is full of political schizos. It's just more like boomer conservatives. Facebook is wild. You're just not looking in the right place.
Like Facebook and Instagram. On those
Instagram, I have no idea. Instagram, I just know is like Chinese people posting their dog shitting into a tiny hole while the X-Files theme plays. And like women with beauty products and stuff.
Platforms. They reportedly began to block anyone who said something negative about their decision or the convention, one of which was the drag queen Naomi Monroe. According to WCCB Charlotte, one fan of the convention who had been going for years named Will Kinsler, who you may know as being involved with sports video games, was blocked by the Mad Monster page for expressing his concerns, and would later tell reporters, "I was dumbfounded, right? Shocked. I was disappointed immediately. It doesn't make me interested in attending this time or ever again. To invite somebody with these sorts of allegations of sexual misconduct surrounding them into what feels like our home of our community, you know,
this convention is my home. You're a f***ing freak. You're insane."
It was really concerning. It feels like a bit of a betrayal, right? I just wanted to tell them I don't think this is right and I don't like it. And now they've kind of taken my voice away from me. I'd hate.
How? Are they the witch from The Little Mermaid? What are you talking about?
For people to see this, that don't know and feel like we're a different kind of community than we are, and that we.
Sorry, the community of people who watch horror films and go to conventions. You want that? It's not a homogenous blob. What are you talking about? God, I remember on Twitter the other day, I saw people complaining about the idea of AI used to power NPCs in video games, as an example. And the problem they had with that wasn't any of the typical ones where they're like, oh, it's going to be slop. They weren't complaining, oh, they're probably going to train it through unethical means. Their complaint was, if the game generates stuff, I'm not going to be on exactly the same page as everyone else who plays it. And I'm not going to be able to perfectly connect and have had the same experience as them. Good! That rules! That's good! That rocks! I don't know what... In my community, we all feel exactly the same way. Okay, you don't need to continue to feel anything then. Stop feeling, stop watching films. You know how you want to feel. You know what's correct to see. You know what's correct for people to like and want and experience. You know what the correct message is. You're done with art. You finished. You beat it. You completed it. You finished media. You're done. You don't need it anymore.
Would welcome somebody in our community that's accused of doing these things that he's doing is disappointing for me. That somebody might find that that is a reflection on us. And
yeah, that's crazy. You, the person saying this, the person who wrote this, clearly feels that it is. Clearly feels that it is. Their sense of self comes from the people around them and their involvement with other people. And I find that utterly sickening, personally.
I want people to know that that's not the case at all. They would also delete any negative comments on their posts so that it looked like...
I want my interests to be a monument to my values, so that through my association with it as a fan, people view me as being righteous and having those values. And disgusting auto-idolatry. Like self-idolization, trying to turn yourself into a monument that the masses look at. Very creepy. I hate it so much.
everyone universally supported what they had been doing. They posted a clip from House of Cards onto their Facebook page, where Frank Underwood confronts a homeless man who has been accused by the police and is suffering from a psychotic episode where he tells him, "Nobody can hear you. Nobody cares about you. Nothing will come from this." They also posted on their Instagram story an image of Spacey with the text, "Nobody cares about you." One major convention manager of a different event who will go...
That fucking rules. That's so good. I think these we need this community to represent this or that. Is how you get every cool, fun horror thing on the internet at least destroyed. I'm not much of a film person. Most of the films I've watched throughout my life have probably been horror though. But online horror stuff like say SCP and whatnot, the desire for everything to become a community and then to be comfortable and then to be safe and then to reflect your ideology leads to anything scary becoming not intense or scary, because then the thing itself that the community forms around has to become soft, welcoming, friendly. Like SCP has to go from here's a list of spooky, creepy shit, some of it kind of cheesy, sure, goes from that to, oh, he has the gay pride magic that makes him immortal and he can ride the alligator and they have friends and they go on adventures and shut up. Fuck me. It's the internet horror meme to fuckable monster pipeline.
Unnamed here criticized their decision by saying, "As convention organizers, it's so important that we look at the big picture. People watch us. They watch what we're doing and who we put our dollar behind. Hiring on performers and celebrities is an endorsement, not just of them, but of what they've done over their lives."
Why? It can be perceived as that. You can view it as that. Has anyone ever thought of this in terms of, doesn't this mindset, for instance, make hiring someone with certain political views an endorsement of their views? Or hiring someone who lives a certain lifestyle an endorsement of their lifestyle? I don't think you want hiring someone to be counted as objectively counted as a statement, because then you could probably, undo the Civil Rights Act. Forget, I'm not going to bake the gay cake. I'm not going to hire the gay because that would be an endorsement of homosexuality and it goes against my religious rights. Do you want us to get to that point? People start fighting that? I mean, I'm sure they try and have. But my take is I reject the idea that hiring on a performer to appear in their capacity as an actor. Now, if they hired Kevin Spacey to do, here's a talk on raping young men, sure. Hiring Kevin Spacey in his capacity as an actor for a horror event is different.
Another convention, called Days of the Dead, posted on their social media a great little piece
To be fair, yes, he would be an expert.
Announcing that Ian Wyatt would be at their event in January, saying that he was going to be the only predator at Days of the Dead.
Hi, everybody. It's Kevin Spacey here, your mad monster. Coming to Concord, North Carolina, February 16th to the 18th. That's right, all 3 days. I'm looking forward to being there. Also, I got you to take a moment and thank all my fans for all your support through all these years. It's meant so much to me, and I hope you make it because you're nice to me in person.
And the thing about all of this is that for security reasons, Spacey was never once actually seen on the convention floor itself. He did not
Oh, damn. So?
Have a table, he did not take selfies, he did not do a Q&A. It was like he wasn't even there. They just had him locked in the back like he was the fucking Wizard of Oz.
No, you don't understand. He was prowling the men's bathrooms. I already explained.
Staged photographs, because anything else could have exposed him to uncomfortable questions. And to that, I just gotta ask.
or perhaps exposed guests to uncomfortable insertions.
If he isn't even going to be participating in the convention itself, why ruin your own reputation and name by having him there? Why choose to die
They got
on this
the
hill?
attention.
Because despite him not physically being seen, just him being in the building for 3 days lingered over the event like a haunting spirit.
Stop making Kevin Spacey sound so cool. He's probably some kind of sex freak. Stop it.
The vibes of this place were truly awful. Because they booked him, it resulted in many reputable vendors or guests refusing to even show up, by either not booking the convention or canceling their reservation. And this drastically hurt the overall tone and the experience of the convention itself. The atmosphere was genuinely depressing. I'm not
This horror convention was really dark and spooky. It was terrible.
trying to be an asshole when I say this, but one of the biggest guests that they could book was Tim Capello, the featured extra from The Lost Boys that plays the saxophone that is only on screen for a few seconds. One of their other major guests was Michael Lerner, who was not Michael Myers in Halloween 6, but instead was that
I watched The Lost Boys as a kid. I remember it fondly. Is Lost Boys good? To be clear, it's that vampire movie, yes?
guy's stunt double that was only used in a few shots in the film. I've talked to both of those guys and they're really nice, and I genuinely mean no disrespect to either of them, but even they would probably agree that they are not horror A-listers. They do not draw in crowds, because they
Wow, just being a bitch. Okay.
decided to back Spacey. They really had to scrape the bottom of the horror barrel to get anyone to come to this thing. And despite
No disrespect, they'd probably agree they're not A-listers. Oh, by the way, I had to scrape the fucking bottom of the horror barrel. Don't be a bitch. If you're gonna shit on them like that, shit on them like that.
what
Just
they would
do
say
it.
about
Just
having
do
record
it.
numbers, the attendance felt completely dead. It really felt like there were about half as many people as there should have been there on a normal year. I mean, we're talking about a convention that not too long ago had Art the Clown and Captain Spaulding in the same room doing a joint clown photo op. Kiefer Sutherland, who was only there for a few hours on
There better be a nuke about this convention. Because, look, I can agree. Seems like it's not super hype. Okay? I'm sure if I were a horror head, this isn't a super hype convention. Like, seems not great. But, like, and what? Why aren't... In Praise of Shadows, you're showing me a kind of shitty convention. Why aren't you making me laugh? Why aren't you making me laugh? Why are you so serious in tone?
one day. And even though I do love them, and I mean no disrespect when I say this, Felicia Rose and Kane Hodder were both also there, which I'd say this in the nicest way possible, but they're basically at every single one of these things, so them being present is neither here nor there. So you can see that by booking Spacey, they totally ruined the show that they were throwing, even being about horror.
Well, I mean, I saw a lot of horror merch. Like you said, they themed it around 7, but...
Because they couldn't get anyone with any major clout who was both respectable and majorly relevant besides those that I've mentioned within the genre to actually show up. Fellow horror YouTuber Cody Leach was actually also at the convention and made his own videos on his experiences with it.
Is this gonna be like cancelling people doesn't work, but it should? And he's gonna use Kevin Spacey as an example. We should have been able to just have him vetoed by complaining about him, and then this would have been better. Cancel culture should work.
He's a guy that I have not historically agreed with on most things. He listed Midsommar and The Lighthouse on his worst of list of 2019, complaining that horror shouldn't be this pretentious and snooty, his words, not mine, and should focus instead on being entertaining and not trying to be cute by using art house aspect ratios. Again, his words, not mine. He also did not appreciate the homoerotic basis of the movie and complained that it was just weird for weird's sake, and to me just didn't try
You're fond of me, lobster, aren't you?
to appreciate the film on its level. In my personal opinion, he is a deeply unserious critic and can actually be, to an extent, a symbol of what I want the message of this video to be about. Because if you watched his video about Mad Monster
Oh my
Con,
God.
you would think it was a great time, a wonderful convention.
Right. I feel like you've undermined yourself. So it's not for you. In Praise of Shadows, it caters to a different taste. That's called diversity, brother. Do you not like it? Maybe next year it'll be more to your taste and you go to that one and have a good time. Like, you specifically... Right. You set yourself up to have a terrible time. You told us at the start you went because mega rapoid Kevin Spacey was there. You went because of that controversy, and then you had a bad time. Like, some of the things you've described make it sound a bit slipshod. Maybe it couldn't have been as packed with heavy hitters as it could have been if not for Spacey. Other people dug it. So, when I was in... Where was I? It was probably in Manchester where there'd be some sort of convention. There were ads all over the place on like light poles and stuff. Just fucking nobodies as far as you could see being hyped up at this convention. And you know what? I didn't know who any of the people were. But it looked like they could have been fun to go to.
There is a clear dichotomy between our two experiences, and I think there's something interesting in that. And this ties into this theory that I've had for a long time that is kind of the thesis of this video, and that I
Not everyone agrees with me and has the same taste, and that's a problem. Is that what it's going to be for 3 hours and 20 minutes? Not everyone who watches horror movies absolutely agrees with me in all ways. And so they like things that I don't like. That needs to change.
think there's actually not one, but two distinct horror communities.
What if the answer is there isn't actually one or two? Probably going to be that there is 0 or thousands. Why do you want to be that homogenous? If a community is bonded by their perception of a hobby or a genre of media, Isn't it bad for there to be one community? That's one perspective, if the community is bound by that. That sucks, that's bad.
Do not overlap. One that is more concerned with writing and thinking about how our own experiences and world are reflected through art. A group that overall is less concerned with how much a movie makes at the box office and more with what it is trying to say as a work of art, and how it relates to ourselves and culture as people. And
they're the intelligent, good, human, sensitive people. And then there are the capitalists.
then you have another that is more conservative and traditionally capital A American, and is based more in basic consumerism, and viewing movies strictly as entertainment and nothing else. A group that often gets angry at the very notion of subtext existing within a work of fiction, and views art not...
Hey, I made a comic that showed you as a fucking retard and me as a genius. Don't you feel owned? The video will now continue for 3 hours. Me, holy shit. What if I told you that if you actually genuinely, unironically belong to one of those communities and that describes you, both of those are morons. You should be able to view a film, a game, a picture, a painting, anything in myriad ways. You should be able to perceive it in those 2 ways and infinite other ways. You should be able to view them in blends of those 2 ways and blends of infinite other ways. You should be able to put on a million different lenses. You shouldn't commit yourself to one perspective. Especially not if a reason to commit yourself to one perspective is to align with a community to look at things. That's a self-restriction. That's cutting off chunks of your humanity. I made a video about this. It's called How We're Killing Art or something. Chop off all the bits of you that can perceive things in ways that are wrong to perceive things in. No.
as a means to express what it means to exist, but instead that sees the value of creation just within the context of how fun and experience that product is. And product is the right word here, as this side of horror is obsessed with money and defending companies, and even when putting on a mask of pretending to be left-leaning, everything that they do is in the service of capital and big business.
Oh, he's unironically saying there's our side. There's the intelligent, just human. I knew this was coming because he framed his side, his community as, we're human, we have feelings, we're intelligent, which means, okay, you're not describing yourself politically. You want to be just, we're the good guys that everyone should accept. I don't want to alienate people from my side, my hypothetical community. But I want to alienate people from the other. They're capitalists. This is embarrassing and transparent. This is propaganda. And I'm concerned that it's going to be personal propaganda to get people to like him versus just, community propaganda. Hey, to be part of the good community, you have to not think any of these things.
I hate to put it in terms like this, but I think deep within the heart of horror at the moment, and the country as a whole, there's a problem of anti-intellectualism raging at people who want art to be more.
Well, because there's a problem of anti-intellectualism because people think you're a dumb retard? Oh, man. Is that what it's going to be? Is that what this video is going to be? People are anti-me, and I'm an intellectual, so people are anti-intellectual.
Stand for something important. A group of people yelling, just let people enjoy things, while the other side argues that we can do better.
And tries to prevent people from appearing at a convention, thus denying the ability for people to consider that situation to begin with. Your team, bro, are the censors trying to prevent something that could be viewed and interpreted in these ways. You've talked about Spacey being featured. Isn't there value in that analysis? Isn't there value in what occurred at this convention? Isn't that interesting? You wanted to stop that from happening and not let people consider it occurring. Even if it wasn't, as you presented and criticized it as, even if it wasn't a good purchase, you critiqued it on the basis that it's a bad purchase, they didn't have the heavy hitters, bad product. The ticket was a bad buy. That was your criticism, and you wanted them to cut off that from happening. When you could have interpreted it as an interesting experience. You could have analyzed it politically. You could have analyzed it, gone into depth, considered how it made you feel, considered how it makes people feel. You are the soulless money whore in this video, motherfucker.
We can be more, which is something we are going to get to soon, so just bear with me here. I know this is a long video. In his 33 minutes of talking about the convention and everything that happened around it, Leach fails to mention Kevin Spacey outside of a single joke about the situation over 20 minutes into the video.
Kiefer Sutherland was outside in the actual hallway with his own isolated room. That's that star power right there. The only other person that had that was Kevin Spacey. He was on a different floor for completely different reasons. But
Not only that, if we look at this footage that I shot, compared to the footage that he shot, you can see that he has clearly framed his angle standing roughly at the exact same spot I was. So as
Oh, this is schizophrenic. He liked the convention, so?
to not show the giant Kevin Spacey banner hanging over the lobby. At another point, he includes a table with some photographs of Spacey near the very end. But outside of that, you wouldn't even know that he had been there based on his video. And you know, I think that people who are in my line of work have a certain level of responsibility to appropriately cover the things that we
Your line of work? What is your line of work? Talking about make-believe? Does he do journalism or something? Does he do journalistic coverage of these things? Isn't he just an opinionoid? You're a subjective cell opinionoid. You don't have many responsibilities beyond that of what a regular human does.
choose to talk about. So in my opinion, making a glowing half-hour-long video about how cool Mad Monster is in the wake of them trying to publicly rehabilitate Spacey's image into
Yeah, but what if he thought it was cool? Subjective, bro.
a right-wing personality
Wait, is he Gamergate? Gamergate 2. Gamergate 3! It's about ethics in talking about your experience of a convention. You need an objective review of the convention, okay?
at a convention held in the South, which happened within weeks after he appeared on Tucker Carlson's show, is not a very responsible use of your platform. And
Jesus Christ. This guy injects soy into his butt cheek.
you know, he did have his complaints about the convention, including talking about the outrageous parking situation in the footage where he actually walks pretty close to my car. He talked about the layout of the convention being not very professional, about the lines being disorderly, but never once does he have a single word of criticism about Mad Monster as an organization for their attempted rehabilitation of Kevin Spacey as a public figure, or the fact
Okay, but people know that Kevin Spacey's there. People know the controversy surrounding Kevin Spacey. This is gonna shock the f*** out of you. I don't give a shit about YouTubers' opinions. Don't care. I can judge for myself what I think about Kevin Spacey. I don't need someone to tell me it's good or bad what they're doing. I can form my own opinion just from the knowledge that it's occurring. If you present it in an entertaining way, or if you present me some sort of ideally, you'd present a novel argument for me to think something. Right? I'd care if you present an argument to convince me and I can deal with that and, like, enjoy that argument. A reviewer saying, yeah, Kevin Spacey was there. That's bad. That's fucking nothing. I don't care what you think. Unless you give me a good reason to do so.
that he is greatly profiting off this appearance from people who are probably struggling, and honestly, probably can't, or at least shouldn't, afford the $300 fee that it costs to get in the room with him for maybe 10 seconds. He then goes on to say that he looks forward to
Hey, you should have mentioned that all of these people are f***ing morons who can't manage their money. Why? You should have mentioned that people who are into things I'm into are morons and throw their money away on nothing. Sure. To me, you know, really, literally, like, any amount of money spent going to an event like that is wasted. But that's subjective.
going to Mad Monster Con again next year. But even if you look at some of his footage within his own video, you can just see how dead this place was. Most of my footage was taken from the busiest times of the day, but the majority of the con before noon and after 2 p.m. just felt totally empty. And the depressing visuals that he's showing in his video do not match with his glowing review. I don't want to make presumptions about Lee.
I don't know, dude. That sounds like a pretty materialistic criticism of it. Sounds like a pretty materialistic perspective, dude.
I had the opportunity to talk with him that day. I saw him walking around a few times, but decided against it. So...
He saw, you know, this guy saw him, recognized him, and then his palms started sweating, and then he started shaking a little bit, and he was like, do I just say, do I just go up to him and say hi? Should I say who I am? What if he doesn't know who I am? What if he pretends not to know? I'm gonna decide against that.
We've never actually met, but in his video, there are a couple of red flags that really scream out at me.
Jane and Elizabeth, one of the objects of my youth.
If you like really crass comedies from the 2000s before everything got all sensitive, definitely check out Sorority Boys.
So to me,
Okay.
he is one and the same with Mad Monster, both spinning content
Damn. Actual tribal man. Actual tribe brain. What the fuck? I am Bunga, he is Unga. They are Unga. That, unga, Kevin Spacey, unga, me bunga.
For money while ignoring the potential harm that the event itself might cause. And I'm really not trying to harm Leach's image by comparing his experience to mine. Again, I don't know the man. And to be honest,
I'm not trying to harm his image by saying he's one and the same as gay rapist Kevin Spacey.
I don't actually really think that he would be that bad of a guy. Just painfully centrist, seemingly leaning a little towards liberal. Like, he tweets pro-LGBT stuff, anti-racist stuff, but then he says things like, said it before and I'll say it again. Right or left, the extreme political people are fucking nut jobs. And
I mean, that's probably part of the definition of being considered extreme left or extreme right, yes?
I despise a review being a political statement, and I have no clue why politics has to work its way into literally everything, but I despise the fact that it does. So, a bit of a mixed bag there to me. I don't want this.
If you're demented, if you can only take that to mean one thing, if you cannot consider what they actually mean by that and understand why they might think that, sure.
This whole section of the video to just be about him, he's a small example of a greater problem that I think is an issue within horror, which is that the existence of centrist and
Bro, I thought you were going to show me tweets of him saying, like, we all know what color he is, and have, like, a news report of, like, 3 children stabbed by knifemen. I thought you were going to show us some shit like that. What is this? Who cares? It's nothing.
liberal views, mixed with a love of genre, acts as a shield and breeding ground for right-wing harm within our community.
Let me hear that again.
The existence of centrist and liberal views, mixed with a love of genre, acts as a shield and breeding ground for right-wing harm within our community.
Centrists and liberals are a shield for right-wing harm in their community. We need to purge. Holy shit. Dementoid. Demented. It's the self-idolatry thing. My community must be an extension of and monument to myself, that I can bask in the glory of, and that others can see and understand as a representation of me and my virtues. Sick. Mental disease. You watch make-believe stories. Stop it.
Because as we will see time and time again throughout this, people who hold these liberal stances will side with conservatives over progressives at every single given opportunity, and will not.
We're talking about a place where fans of make-believe movies get together to talk about and, like, celebrate these make-believe movies, and Kevin Spacey was there. We're not talking about stopping another Holocaust or something. It doesn't matter.
Criticize horror unless it is art house, and also will not stand for other people to criticize horror. I myself have never once.
You're not standing for his review of the event, even. You just can't. You're just intolerant. And you're describing the other people as intolerant. And therefore it's okay to be intolerant, but they can say the same of you. And they do say the same of you. That guy saying, why does everything have to be political? He's doing what you're doing right now. You're the same in any meaningful way to anyone who's outside of your own little bubble. You're just really annoying. I hate you. I would not hang out with you.
In my life described a woman as an object. I think that he should put more thought into the words that he says publicly, and how.
He's also stupid. When that guy said, what did he say? She was my adolescent object, or the object of my adolescence. He wasn't saying she's like a piece of meat that he owned when he was a tween and teen. He's saying, and he sort of just failed to say, the object of my desire in my adolescence.
He uses his platform, but also he genuinely seems like an alright guy, which is the issue here. The slow creep of conservatism within all forms of art, and every aspect of life, is marched down a road that is paved by smiling friendly liberals. A centrist view of this event didn't even think that it was worth mentioning the act of harm that was being done here, because
the act of harm. What's the harm? Measure it for me. Measure the harm. Tell me what the harm is and tell me the degree of the harm.
we were just all there to have a good time after all, right? It is a mindset of consume the product and ask no questions about how the product was actually made, or who was harmed in the making of this product.
Young boys were harmed in the making of this convention because it has Kevin Spacey there. Oh!
I'm in here, and if I see him, I will be very happy to see him. But at the same time, I understand the allegations against him, and it's kind of weird.
Oh, so they're fully conscious of it. This guy is intellectually superior to In Praise of Shadows and the guy he doesn't like. This guy is able to view an event on multiple levels. He can consider the issue with Kevin Spacey. He can also enjoy it and be excited to see him in his capacity as an actor and as a celeb, while also being mindful of the controversies and find that interesting and want to engage. This guy destroys both of them intellectually so far. Yeah, damn.
Mad Monster is an amazing thing that I'm glad I'm at. And whether or not he's here doesn't stop how awesome this convention is.
Again, I mean the man no ill will, genuinely. I do not wish to harm his livelihood whatsoever by including him here. Please, do not go say mean things to or about him. I will not stand for anyone who is mentioned here to be harassed in any way.
That guy is not an avatar of just consume product and ask no questions. He specifically mentioned controversy around Kevin Spacey and that he's aware of it and that he feels weird about it. No, he's not an avatar of that, brother.
Do not do that. I think as a culture, we need to learn where to actually direct our anger in constructive ways based around unity that will result in actual tangible good.
Unity. Based fascist?
Which is something I
Unity and authority of our figureheads to strike down Kevin Spacey. He should have a new logo for his channel. I think the fascies could have the bundle of sticks to represent the unity of his community, and then the axe head at the top to represent their ability to cancel Kevin Spacey. And the authority that unity gives him.
Outright say, but after my Halloween video last year, a lot of people sent Sean death threats and threats of violence, which is absolutely 100% genuinely unacceptable. It is behavior that I would never under any circumstances condone or encourage.
Dude, stop condemning it so much. It sounds like you're being sarcastic. Like, what? I don't... What do you... There comes a point where I have to question, like, are you doing the opposite? Is this a bit? Are you doing...
I'm deeply ashamed of any person who did that on my behalf. It should not be our way, and the real problem...
It should not be our way! Thank you, great shaman. Great shaman in the shadows. You are correct, this is not our way.
In this situation is clearly those actually facilitating Mad Monster as an organization. The companies themselves are almost always the problem here. People like Leech are merely side effects of the real issue. The day after the convention ended, Mad Monster posted on their Facebook, "Thank you all who joined us for a record-setting show. Your support always means a lot, but this time it really hit home. The overwhelming amount of you that took the time to express your love and appreciation made..."
What if the controversy of Kevin Spacey is what made it enticing? What if it wasn't just the star power of Kevin Spacey? What if an element of it was the controversy, and people are actually blending these things rather than strictly being one side or the other in terms of intellectual consideration and pure consumerism? What if people are actually a bit more complex? What if you are the retard? What if that's the case, actually?
This easily our favorite party that we've ever hosted. We will continue to throw Mad Monster Party for you, not for random autograph collectors on the sidelines, basing their attendance on the current guest lineup, not for hypocritical virtue-signaling keyboard warriors, many of which still showed up.
Oh, in praise of shadows. They're saying we do it for our community, not e-celebs. You just got owned. You just got called out and destroyed, brother.
We threw this party for the Mad Monster family that have grown.
Yeah, bro, they just said you're not our community. Now this guy is saying, no you, where? No, you're not the community, where? Holy
with us over the years who get their tickets and hotels before the first guest is even announced. We know you're here for each other as much as for the guest and the vendors. Samantha Osborne, who worked the convention and has been employed by Mad Monster for the past 2 years, said on her Facebook page, "This weekend Mad Monster hosted Kevin Spacey's first ever convention appearance. Despite varied opinions going in, there were no protests, and Spacey was received warmly.
Yeah, in praise of shadows, you were there. Why didn't you protest it?
As a guest, he was nothing but gracious. That's all I have to say on the matter." Witchy Woman on Twitter said, "A lot of vendors are pulling out of Mad Monster Con in NC because of Kevin Spacey being on the guest list. It sucks because a lot of greats will be there." She then tagged several of the prominent guests, including John Glover, who played Riddler on Batman the Animated Series, who said,
"Received warmly and tightly if unwillingly."
"No one pulled out. It was a lovely weekend. I don't appreciate tags in this nonsense. There are real dangers in the world. The Mad Monster guest list is not one of them." She responded by saying,
"That sounds like bullshit. Wait, are we going to get a verification that no one pulled out?" No one pulled out, especially not Spacey. But, okay, now give us an absolute verification. Because this guy can be a spaz, and the convention can be run by weirdos. Both can be true.
"I know a few vendors personally, but please tell me more." To which he didn't respond. The Daily Wire in this time.
Okay, but who is Witchy Woo Woo? Who is that person? Is that your verification that people absolutely did pull out? Because you said it before and you looked around the hall and you asserted it. I haven't seen... You'd think in response to them saying no, they didn't pull out, you'd have absolute confirmation.
Ran a piece defending the convention and their booking of Spacey. And just my opinion here, but no horror event should ever fumble the bag so badly that you get the Nazi news force coming to bat for you. That's like a shining example of how badly you have failed your community.
You're not their community, though. They showed you the door. They said they don't consider you legit because your support of them is conditional. You're not family to them. You are not family to them. They didn't fail you. They've asserted that you are not part of their shit. And you're trying to still say, no, it's actually mine. It's mine. No, they disowned you. They disowned you. You're an orphan.
Which is something that he almost never does. In fact, since his fall from grace in October of 2017, he has only tweeted 5 times. This was his 5th tweet. A video thanking Mad Monster
Only 5 tweets? How can he live?
For welcoming him back into public life, saying that he had a wonderful weekend and how grateful he was for the opportunity, ending by saying that he was looking forward to appearing at the next Mad Monster event. He has since announced that he is working again in Paul Schrader's next film, and little by little, he is attempting through events like Mad Monster to establish a base within American culture.
Hey, everybody.
Kevin Spacey, previously unknown to film.
Just back from an incredible weekend I spent in Charlotte, North Carolina at the Mad Monster Convention. It was just so much fun, and I'm so grateful to...
I don't know if I can live with this. A star actor who did weird sex things? What's society coming to?
Seen before. Posters I've never seen, and memorabilia, but in particular, it was the new stuff.
He's turning me against the inclusion of Spacey anywhere. This is too much yapping. Please, Spacey, shush.
I'm looking forward to seeing you at the next one, and we'll have an announcement soon about when that's going to be. So take care of yourselves. We'll see you later.
Ooh, how bad did it go? Did it go bad?
I'd like to talk to you about the worst week of my life. So...
Is it the fallout of this thing? Because if something really bad happened after that, and that occurred in February, I think I would have heard about it. Like, it feels like it's not that big a deal if I didn't hear about it online.
January of 2022, okay? I made a video about The Hills Have Eyes that went very badly. And I've never really spoken about this or...
Is he the guy with the line, like, for some reason, we side with the family over the cannibals? Is he that guy? I didn't watch it, but I saw people memeing on this. I remember this. Is he that... I remember Hills Have Eyes guy who was like, for some reason, people side with this family who's invading over the cannibals. Like, you don't have a human perspective. I think probably your analysis is interesting as an oddity to bounce off of and consider, but, ooh, damn, in terms of human insight, I don't know. From what little I've seen, I have strong doubts as to the value of your insight as being cutting edge.
Even really addressed that it was a thing, except for maybe just a couple of times on Twitter. I guess when it happened, I just hoped that it would eventually disappear, but it never has. And I think that we should start here by addressing the elephant in the room.
Hills have eyes as in the movie? No, as in the literal phenomenon where hills grow eyes and start staring at you. Yes, the movies.
Too long after he arrived. So, this is a brief reanalysis of Wes Craven, The Hills Have Eyes, and the internet's general response to some pretty basic things that I said about him and his work about 2 years ago. In the time since making that video, very often it is the case that when conservatives want to criticize me, they will go back to that and use it as a weapon, by twisting my words in very bad faith to make it look like I said something
in very bad faith. Not just, this is beyond bad faith, extreme bad faith.
That I obviously did not intend if you had watched the video. Usually in an attempt to make me either look crazy, or cartoonish, or racist, or that I don't know what I'm talking about, and I'm unqualified to have this job.
Well, I'm sorry in praise of Shadows, but sometimes when critiquing media, like your own videos, people have to look a bit deeper, and there are more advanced interpretations of media. Reminder, your videos themselves are media that can be critiqued. I think they just have a critical style that's above you. What you're doing right now is engaging in anti-intellectualism. I'm sorry, you just don't get it.
A recent example of this happened in this past January, when Mark After Dark on Twitter said, IPOS himself has said some really racist shit towards Native First Nations people in his Hills Have Eyes video too. He's not one to talk. In fact, Mark After Dark has been slandering me pretty consistently.
Mark After Dark. 5,570 followers. Probably bigger YouTube channel or something. Yeah, 30k channel. His recent videos get like similar views to me, like, you know, 1k to like 5k views. Looking at who he's pointing out as slandering him. So he's involved with YMS. He was the editor, you're saying. But he's not using that platform to do this. This guy writing a tweet that gets 35 views. Who gives a fuck? This feels personal. This feels absolutely fucking personal. He's trying to turn something personal into a broad societal issue, is what I'm going to call right fucking now, based on this being his example of slander he faced.
In fact, Mark After Dark has been slandering me pretty consistently now for years in relation to The Hills Have Eyes, often getting hundreds of likes every single time by either saying lies about me or really taking my words in completely bad faith.
Hundreds of likes. Hundreds of likes! The more likes a statement gets, the more defamed you are.
And every time that he does this, it hurts my reputation just a little bit more.
That's not really how it works. He has social media brain. He is parasitized by the algorithm. He's imagining his algorithm in terms of like likes and dislikes, likes on things that are anti-me versus likes on things that are pro-me. You're mentally ill. Get off the internet.
These things do have a very real effect, because if people say things enough
It's genuinely not good for you. You can't be on the internet.
times, then other people will believe it. It doesn't matter if it's actually true. He was the first that I could tell to actually tweet something negative about me in the fallout from that video's release, when he said, YouTube film essayist, the cannibals in The Hills Have Eyes are actually the good guys, because they're poor, and the family is everything wrong about America. They're middle class and one is a retired cop. Cuts to footage of January 6th storm.
Damn, crazy. He didn't name you. Why do people know it was you? Strange. Damn, a description of behavior without naming you is defamation of you. Is it because he's accurately describing what you did and that's why people know what it is? Strange. YouTube, I need to tweet like, YouTube film essayist, rapes child, and then have someone pop up and say, stop defaming me!
The Capitol, which I hope you'll be able to see is taking my basic argument and contorting it to appear as ridiculous as possible, even though it did make sense within the
Oh, so what, is he defaming your argument? I thought it was about slander against you. He didn't name you, but people knew it was you. If people knew it was you from that description, they already had that view of you because they recognized that as being your thing. If they didn't already think that, they wouldn't have been able to recognize you talking about you, therefore he had no impact on their view of you, you fucking retard! Holy shit!
context of the actual video. I mean, that video is an hour and 25 minutes. Reducing what I was trying to get across down to a single one-sentence tweet, of course, is going to make me look like an insane person.
Okay, you're just a little bitch boy. I'm convinced, half-hour mark, just about. That's literally all this is. If people, let's pretend his video isn't dumb. I'll even say, his video probably isn't as dumb as people say. I haven't watched it. Let's give him insane charity and benefit of the doubt. I bet his video is really smart and great. Okay. You would still get a bajillion people, like, dissing it, misinterpreting it. You'll get people misinterpreting it and saying it's good. Welcome to being on YouTube. Sometimes those interpretations pop off. Half of the people who agree with me probably don't understand what I'm saying, based on me reading YouTube comments.
You can literally do that with anything that anyone says, but it isn't being done in the fair spirit of argument. It isn't an actual response to what I was saying. It is lashing out like a toddler. He got
It's lashing out like a toddler, unlike this 3.5 hours of crying. He's lashing out like a toddler, and in response, I'll go even further. I'm going to flail around like an infant. It's a tweet.
370 likes with that one. Another time, to 867 likes, he said, I like IPOS videos for the most part, but this man has brainworms. His Hills Have Eyes video is the most schizophrenic far-leftist ramblings I've ever heard. He said the family deserved to be raped and killed because they represented colonial USA and the Hill people are native. By my count, he has tweeted at least...
Are you going to show us what you actually said along those lines? Where do you think you got that idea from? Did that come from nothing?
10 times over the past 2 years about this, and that is without me actually even looking very hard. I'm sure it has happened even more than that. I have never once before now interacted with him or even acknowledged his existence. And he's often really condescending with this too. In one tweet...
Is he bullying a small YouTuber or something? Like, what? 175,000 view piece of media on YouTube. And he talked about it 10 times over 2 years. Yeah? Sounds like you want him to just not critique media in the way you don't want him. Shut up, Mark! People need to just consume my media! No, YouTube videos don't count as media. They're me. My videos are me. It's not like horror movies. My YouTube videos aren't media that should be allowed to be talked about and people should talk about in various ways. No. Just consume you. Look, you don't understand. Consumerism is only when it's a product you pay for. My YouTube videos should be consumed unquestionably. Or rather, unquestioningly. Unlike movies. You don't understand.
Saying that I must have forgotten my meds that day. Essentially, every single
Can I watch some pedophile accusations instead of this shit? Midnight Sun, go touch a kid and make sure they're old enough to make a video about it and we'll react.
time implying that I think rape, violence, and cannibalism is literally a good thing, and that I'm also a racist. Around
That's his interpretation of your media. Intent isn't magic. Intent isn't magic. That's the vibe he got from your vid. And I think you're responsible for that.
that same time in January, an account going by Crackhead Clyde said to me, "I don't get how you can show more sympathy for the violent cannibals in The Hills Have Eyes than a kid who is defending himself during a riot, or a competing YouTuber who has different opinions from you," which...
Damn. You just got politically commentated on. In Praise of Shadows, they just did the thing you said you think good people should do. They did it.
We're gonna get to all this in a little bit, but the kid that he was talking about defending himself was Kyle Rittenhouse.
Yeah, I figured.
The Hills Have Eyes is their favorite thing to use against me because it is really all they've got. And
it's all they've got to take me down with. I don't think they've dedicated their life to destroying you. They just mentioned the one relevant thing about you. What's wrong with this? I'm going to keep tabs on this guy because he might have, like, late onset schizophrenia or something.
not that we should be really taking the...
There's that seed of genuine paranoia in him that I can taste. He might be another Cell Waters. We need, like, he might have, like, one day he might have that, like, lightning bolt psychotic break and then put insane videos up. I mean, some would argue he already does, but I really suspect we're going to have that lightning bolt psychotic break day from this guy.
Opinions of Crackhead Clyde extremely seriously, but the issue
Your voice
is the
just
army
cracked.
of Crackhead
Sorry, little buddy, your voice just cracked. Opinion discarded.
Clydes that will read a single tweet about you and then assume that it is true and hold that against you for years. Literally, there has not been a single week that has gone by in over 2 years that I didn't have somebody saying something shitty to me about that video. And I don't think that most of them have actually even
Welcome to having a video with a bunch of views on YouTube and being present on social media, okay?
watched it. And I kind of want to look at this, because posting that video was a huge negative turning point in my life, and the way that that one video was received has really impacted everything around me. Before that,
And that's why we need to destroy people, and that's why cancelling needs to work better, and we need to be able to ostracize people from conventions more easily. Such as in Praise of Shadows, the freak racist who put up a weird The Hills Have Eyes review. Do you want that, brother? Is that really what you want?
I was relatively comfortable financially. I could make the kinds of videos that I wanted to, and have honestly struggled very badly ever since then. If you want to know why I make so many franchise videos now, it's because I still need to eat, and those are the only things that ever gain
You need a qualifying sentence there, please.
any traction now. Everything else I do dies as soon as it's released. For transparency.
Right. Do you want to know why I stream 5 times a week and edit a bunch of YouTube videos and put them up? Because 1, yeah, I need to eat. 2, I also want to go on vacations and stuff. And 3, doing this instead of working in a warehouse or being a carer f***ing rules. And so long as I can make money doing f***ing around online professionally, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. It rules. It is not something, even if it's a struggle, doing this and you pull it off, it is not something to be sad about. Another month getting paid to fuck around on the internet is another month not working in a warehouse. That's fucking great. That's really good. I don't know why this guy's sad.
This is a graph of my total lifetime views on my channel, and this is the point where I posted The Hills Have Eyes. There is a clear delineation before and after me making that, and at least from my perspective, I'm not really sure if that response was entirely fair or justified. I don't
He's going to try to logic himself into being more popular. Here's why I should actually have more subscriber. Holy shit, this is amazing.
think that as a person, I deserve that based on my performance in that one single video. I understand that I am not
As a person, I deserve YouTube hits. Holy f***. He's the embodiment of everything I hate. He is the avatar of my disgust! Holy shit! Every time I say, like, when I talk about people having this seed of evil in them, he's not a seed, he's the whole damn plant. He is death. He is death walking terror.
Entitled to your time whatsoever or anything like that. I'm just a guy on the internet. But if you stopped watching me over the public reception to that one work, then I kind of want to talk about that a little bit here. Because
I'm going to try and morally argue that you should watch my shit-ass videos. Just be cool. Just be cool and fun, and people will watch you. Don't be you. Just be literally anyone but you, and things will go better.
Insignificant amount of people who frequently say untrue things about me. And in the long term, it has kind of ruined my ability to make a living doing what I want to do with my own work. And
that isn't what ruined your ability to make a living. No. No, it isn't. This is cope. This is unbelievably pathetic. Make another channel and do it from scratch again. You mean you blundering and putting something out that people didn't like affected you in this particular venture? Guess what? All the success you had is on the back of people having a positive reception of the stuff you put out. That sword has two edges. People can also not like it, and it can hurt you. If you're gonna take the benefits of people liking the shit you put out, you got to eat shit when you put out something people don't like. Welcome to entertainment, brother. You're supposed to be the intellectual who understands these things on all levels. Welcome to entertainment, you dumb bitch. Pick up an instrument or something. Go busk. I'm so glad that I was a musician first. I'm so glad that I had periods where I just busked. Because I feel like that's like immunization against this mindset. Be good enough that people want to support you. That's literally all you have to do. All you have to do. It doesn't matter how many people hate you unless they can get you deplatformed, and removed from everything. With that caveat, it doesn't matter how many people hate you, so long as you just have enough people who like you or like what you do. You only need enough who like you. Doesn't matter how many hate you.
Dark side Phil if he was a video essay lib.
True.
all of this has been built on a misconstrued idea of what I was actually talking about. But before we get to that, let's take a look at some other movies made by Wes Craven, so that we have proper context to actually talk about The Hills Have Eyes. Because Wes Craven was undeniably an extremely left-leaning
Here's why you're wrong about thinking I'm a f***ing dork.
filmmaker who infused that into practically all of his work. He is probably about the most leftist mainstream horror filmmaker that was ever working at his level, and clearly based on his other works. If he has a protagonist in a story that is an old white cop, like in The Hills Have Eyes, he is not going to write him as if he is a good person. I'm not
irrelevant whether he did or not. What if he did? What he's saying here, regardless of his hypothesis being accurate or not, this isn't real. You can take that information and compare it to what's there. So he could write an old white cop as a good person, and then you can analyze and contrast that with previous presentations of white cops, or you can talk about it being in line. You can't say, he always depicted this way, therefore this new depiction is the same. That is the one thing you can't really say. That doesn't work.
Saying my opinions here. I am literally telling you factual information about what happens in these movies. There is this thing that the internet does, where one person says something that is false but sounds believable and is tangentially related to what actually happened.
Factual information about these movies. Not all of it. When you're talking about symbolism, not necessarily. When you're saying it is a parody of this perspective, it can be intended to be that. It can be interpreted as that. That's not the same as it inherently being that. Those are different things. This is like caveman art perspective.
And then other people start to repeat it out of context, and morph it, and slowly escalate it, until
right,
it just
what
becomes
did you say?
general belief, even though it is detached from reality. And this is what I think happened here in my situation, where
what did you say, bro?
people somehow got the notion that I was a racist, pro-cannibal, pro-rape, and sexual assault weirdo, which, I find genuinely insulting. It's like some people had never heard of the concept of a metaphor before. So, if we go back to my original video, okay? My basic argument was that the hill people in The Hills Have Eyes are
Show me the quote. What did you say?
stand-in for any type of person who has been marginalized by the American imperial machine. Native Americans, any non-white people really, queer people, poor people, anyone who would stand in opposition to the family, whose father is a police officer, whose background is upper middle class, who are openly racist, demanding, and hostile, who also have a
My man, my genius cultural critic. Some people might consider you saying, these inbred cannibals in the hills stand for your race. They might find that racially offensive. I'm sorry. You might find that immature, you might not like that. You're supposed to understand these things. Somehow you don't. Perhaps I shouldn't trust your analysis of messages and your sensitivity and your understandings of society. and culture.
Shepherd as their chosen pet. They are a family made up of racist red flags, and I discussed how the movie is about a conflict when those ideologies come into contact. When a group who has had everything taken away from them, and another who reaps the benefit of the taking, are suddenly placed on the same level and are told to duke it out for survival. About how at the end of the day, when push comes to shove, we are all capable of great violence against one another. I do not think that that is an outrageous.
You're not showing us exactly what you said, bro. When it comes to people's reception of something, the specifics matter, don't they? The precise way it's said, the vocabulary used. Yes? How whatever is said is couched within the broader video. Its context within your other works, even. Suddenly it's this simple and you don't need deep analysis of your media? Your media should just be accepted as what you say it is. No one should have their own thoughts about it. No one can take it any way you don't want it to be taken. Everyone else's media that you look at, forget death of the author. I'll just put ideas in the author's head. Here's what they think, here's what they're saying. For you, though, we have to listen to what you say. No, fuck off. Eat shit.
Outrageous reading of that film. It isn't even really subtext. It's just the plot of the movie. People got extremely mad at me for recapping the plot of The Hills Have Eyes. Because genuinely, if you go back and watch that video...
I don't believe that's what happened. There's no way.
That is all I am doing. It is a very basic reading on Wes Craven's intended message of that film based on his own words and what he put on the screen. I'm not even saying that I agree with everything going on in the movie. I also certainly did not write the movie. And truth be told, I also think...
Damn, you really f***ed up communicating that that's what you were doing then.
That Wes Craven is a little overrated, and I'm somewhat mixed on his filmography as a whole. Thematically, I think he's great, but on a basic filmmaking level, he was at times fairly weak. I was literally just talking about what Craven was trying to do in his script and how he saw the movie. That's all. Still, I started to receive comments like this. I can't imagine watching this film and coming away with the conclusion that the cannibals are secretly the good guys.
God.
And the biggest
F*** this guy. Why would you put this text on this background? This is the worst thing he's done. It literally hurts to look at.
tragedy is that they didn't eat the people passing through. He stabs him in the heart not to kill him, but to remind him of his place. Or maybe it was just to kill the cannibal.
How many more YouTube comments are you going to read verbatim?
So what I have gathered from this video is people who commit tragedies such as mass shootings are justified
I hate you!
by society, and society should expect innocence because of that. Oof, the overinterpretation of capitalism bad by making the literal rape.
Damn, why do people write angry comments shitting on me? I just make the most irritating, drawn-out pieces of dog shit to torture you with and put them on the internet. Why are people mad? Why do people say bad things about me?
He refuses to address the amount of sexual assault the cannibals perpetrate. I'm all for wild interpretations of the thematic meanings of art, within reason. This goes well beyond reason. And you know, these things are half-truths. It removes all nuance regarding the use of metaphor in the film. And I know I'm including a lot of examples in
half-truths. It's their perception, it's their interpretation of what you said. This review is slander.
This section, but I'm just trying to communicate exactly how in this situation I said one thing, and then it got misconstrued as another that slowly eroded people's view in my writing.
You haven't actually shown us what you said, though. You've given us a summary that may or may not be accurate. And because people actually consumed that video, specifically what you said is relevant. And how you said it is relevant. You're just a wank-off who knows the right words to say, but the brain isn't connected. The thoughts aren't connected to those words correctly. You have trained the same way a pigeon can learn to press a button to get a treat. You've learned the right words to say in the right order to get treats. You don't actually, not actually like a person.
And their trust in me, which has made the past 2 years a very dark time in my life. And on the notion of refusing to address—
very dark time in his life. Normally, when you hear that, someone's about to admit to doing something terrible.
That is something that gets said a lot about critics and YouTubers in general, that if something wasn't directly mentioned, then it must be obviously a refusal to mention it, or a massive
In Praise of Shadows, that's what you said about Kevin Spacey not being mentioned. You said this. You said this about the convention at the start of the video. This is your critique that you use. You don't reject this. You accused the guy at the start of deliberately omitting a Kevin Spacey poster by not panning over to it.
Oversight that must be pointed out by the commenter. Neither of which are true in this instance or in most instances that assertion is ever made. You don't—
He had to cover himself. He remembers that he says that towards other people, so of course he has to qualify it by saying, oh, it's rarely true. Of course, it's always correct analysis when I do it.
Work on a project for 100 hours and then just accidentally forget to include something. I assure you that thought was put into the words that I was saying. I incorporated all forms of violence into one for that video because the metaphor of the movie is about aggression and revenge, whether that be sexual, outright physical, or even eating the victims. All of them to the Hill people are expressions of forms of revenge, one and the same. It literally makes no sense to talk about them as if they were three different things within that context, because as far as the movie is concerned—
that's anti-intellectual, actually. ooh, don't think about qualitative cultural differences. Don't think about anything about different forms of violence in the movie. Okay, you anti-intellectual.
All of the violence falls under the same blanket of metaphorical rage. It would only take up time to not actually end up saying anything that I hadn't already said. And if I went down a list and addressed every single act of violence individually, that just would be pointless. And also, it isn't me saying that I think that these things
Would it be as pointless as you reading out a massive list of YouTube comments? I know you hate wasting our time.
are good in real life. Obviously. We are talking about fiction here. The Hills Have Eyes never happened. Wes Craven made that up. These are not real people. And I know I normally don't have to go that basic with what I'm saying, but in this instance, I guess
You would shit on someone else for saying this. I guarantee it. You would call them a brainless consumer for saying this. I guarantee it.
it does have to be said. Because near weekly for over 2 years, at least one person has insinuated to me that I supposedly think people's flesh should literally be eaten off their bodies because they can afford a camper. And I won't name names. But the thing that really hit me the hardest is that when I decided to stop reading comments and just tried to distract myself by scrolling on Twitter and on my For You
When I stopped reading comments and tried to distract myself by scrolling Twitter. This is full of just golden lines. This is beautiful. He doesn't need to critique anything. I just want to see him talk. He's like a monkey in a cage. He's the specimen to be examined.
page, I found a thread of mutuals openly making fun of me for my failure of the video amongst them.
I finally escaped the YouTube comment vortex, went on Twitter, and my friends were laughing at me. Jesus Christ.
Just openly in public. Some of them using words like idiot and stupid. Many of
They used such language as idiot and stupid. Fuck
which I could
me.
tell had not actually watched the video based on what they were saying. They were genuinely just calling me dumb without trying to meet me on my level of what I was trying to say.
They were calling me dumb without taking on an extra chromosome to meet me on my level. They don't know the burdens I live with.
Instead just believing what other people were saying about me. And that was so hurtful that I can't even fully communicate it to you. To see this
3 hours, 20 minutes, I'm all f***ed up and make terrible decisions. Here's why that's your fault and you need to be my fan. Jesus
skateboarding
Christ!
section, which, it's YouTube. Sometimes it can be a little bit out there. Into the more real digital life on the internet and Twitter and beyond. To where even people who knew me were making fun of me in post that the algorithm recommended to me was the most
I was bullied by the Twitter algorithm. Why would you admit to this?
point in my career. Again, I won't say who they are. I don't want people to get mad at them for this, but I still remember, and to be honest, I will always see those people differently from now on. And if I met
if I see them, it's on sight. It's on sight. This has scarred me.
them in person, I would never be more than just cordial. I would never be their friend, and I'm usually not like that. I decided
You made fun of my video. We can't be friends. I'll be nice to you, though.
then that I was never going to acknowledge that this was happening. I was just going to go on about my life, keep making videos, and hope that things would be fine. But they weren't. They never really were again after that for me. Like I said, this never actually stopped happening. It is still going on to this day. It keeps happening, continuing to mutate, and escalate to where now people are openly making fun of me about the Hills Have Eyes to my face, in spite of being totally detached from the reality of what was even said in that video.
I'm sorry, dude.
They don't even treat me like a person. Recently,
I, for one, am scared that the YouTube film critic holocaust is coming. Stage 3 of genocide has been achieved. They make fun of my videos to my face, so they're not even treating me like a person. Next thing you know, they'll be denying that the YouTube film critic holocaust is occurring. That's stage 10 of genocide.
said something related to the Cherokee on Twitter near where I live, which is something we are going to get to here in a little bit. And somebody said to me, "Hi, I live in Oklahoma and am a Native American. Go fuck yourself."
Based. I wish they said that to him in person.
What do I even do with that? I've never once in my life said something negative about Native Americans, but there are a whole group of people who treat me with open hostility over a perceived belief that I said something awful, when all I
Boy, you're getting scalped, boy. You're getting scalped, boy. Watch out. Better leave America.
did was talk about something that somebody else had said. Another example for you is when one woman last year said,
Does he genuinely not understand that, reasonable or not, no matter how intellectual and high-minded you are, suggesting that the cannibals in the hills have eyes, these inbred freaks who eat human flesh, represent Native Americans, could offend a Native American. Right? Right of them or not to feel personally attacked by you over that. Does he genuinely not understand how that could happen? If he doesn't, he has no business culturally critiquing any media. Very low-level thinker. Very detached individual.
He is up his ass and has been for several videos now, and he apologized rape in media as art. What do you expect of someone who calls himself an artist on every video? And now...
Right. This is your community eating you. This is your side. They're doing to you what you do to media.
Over a
because you produce
that I
media.
said something awful, when all I did was talk about something that somebody else had said. Another example for you is when one woman last year said, he is up his ass and has been for several videos now, and he apologized rape in media as art. What do you expect of someone who calls himself an artist on every video? And now, I normally have a rule for myself of refusing to engage in purposefully combative comments, but this one made
Yeah, but this was a woman, and I won't have any woman talking down to me.
me really mad. And I said back to them, I can assure you that I have never done that. That accusation is disgusting to me, and putting those words in my mouth is in extremely bad faith. To which
Apologized rape in media is art. I mean, he did, but he's right. Yeah, he covered for it by saying it can be mashed into generic violence and seen as a message. Yeah, you have done that. Absolutely.
And now, I normally have a rule for myself of refusing to engage in...
You did it, and you're right to do that. It's fine. Like, I'm not gonna hate on you and say it's offensive or whatever, but I can see why people would view it that way. And it's absolutely the people you want to court.
Purposefully combative comments, but this one made me really mad. And I said back to them, I can assure you that I have never done that. That accusation is disgusting to me, and putting those words in my mouth is in extremely bad faith.
I think she believes that, though. I think she's sincere and believes that's what he's doing. I even think that's what he's... Based on his description of what he did, yes, that's actually what he's doing, and it's fine. I'd love to figure out exactly what these people mean by bad faith. I think there are several definitions of it.
To which she said, I wouldn't make that accusation if it wasn't something you have done. Either way, you sadly became full of yourself, mourning over your poor artist soul and drowning in self-pity.
Destroyed. Annihilated. You failed to fight that hoe. You lost.
And slowly, some people got the idea that I was just some crazy person with outrageous fringe.
To be fair, I'm getting that idea really fast, and there's still over 2 hours to go.
Views, who shouldn't be taken seriously by this unjustifiable snowball of a reaction to me saying that maybe Wes Craven liked to write horror.
Did you notice his problem? Did you notice that, real quick?
And slowly, some people got the idea that I was just some crazy person with outrageous fringe views, who shouldn't be taken seriously.
His greatest wound is that people view him as someone who shouldn't be taken seriously. Infantile. Speak in such a way, produce things that people cannot help but instinctively take you seriously. Do it. That burden's on you.
By this unjustifiable snowball of a reaction to me saying that maybe Wes Craven liked to write horror and metaphors, and enjoyed using visual shorthand symbols within his work, which is what most people who write horror do, and that maybe he used Native American visual codes as his narrative symbols, which was very heavy-handed but also was commonplace in the 1970s. I said nothing that was either groundbreaking, or new, or outrageous, or even original there. If anything, I was doing a basic recap of the history of criticism that has already been said 1,000 times before me, just to get past the first movie so that I could talk.
I didn't say anything new or edgy or controversial. But these dumb Native American savages were offended for some reason. I guess they just have low IQs, or their brains don't work as good as mine.
About the sequels, which is what I do in basically every single franchise video. That is the format. If you go back and look at all of those videos, they start with a basic overview of the first movie, followed by a more in-depth coverage of the less talked about sequels. That is why I make those videos. You can't say anything new about the Texas Chainsaw Massacre that hasn't already been said, but you could probably have a few new original ideas about the third and fourth movies. I used to hit 200 to 400,000 views per video, and now I'm hitting 50 to 100,000 most of the time, saying the exact same message that I used to say back then. But now
maybe that in and of itself is an issue. Maybe people are bored. Hey, I do the same video over and over again, and, I view things through exactly the same lens. Over and over and over, and don't offer anything fresh. And for some reason, my views are dropping off.
I think with more skill than I used to have, with higher production values. And now, every time I make a video, the comments are often swapped with people still living off that meme of an idea, who only show up to say mean things about me and leave that all started with The Hills Have Eyes.
Damn, so it's not even really 50 to 100,000, fan views. How many hate views? He's complaining about them, but maybe without the haters, he wouldn't have any watchers at all.
I used to not have that happen. If you go look, Literally, there is a hostile comment on every single video now within maybe 2 to 3 minutes of posting a new video. Say if you were to go back and look at my recent video on...
I think pretty much every single video of mine nowadays has Danko Grigoric or whatever. Please, asking me please not to use swears with the Lord's name. I can barely handle it. I can barely handle it.
blood tea and red stream. Within a minute of the video coming out, a man had posted, "I'm just here to see how long it takes him to whine about the racist patriarchy." To which someone else said, "If you dislike his videos so much, why do you watch and comment on them instead of watching something you actually enjoy?"
Why don't you just consume products and not question or criticize?
To which he said in return, "'Cause I'm a dick." This meme of an idea has directly impacted my work, my sense of self, and the
These guys who don't watch me. Sorry, these guys who don't like me are watching me and saying bad things about me. They're critiquing my media. He cannot detach himself from his own videos. To him, every video he uploads is a Harry Potter Voldemort Horcrux. It has a piece of his soul. They're attacking him.
videos that I'm able to make, and I don't really think that that's fair. There was a month last year where I only made...
Your commentary isn't fair. Your YouTube comments aren't fair. Eat shit.
$500 in ad revenue. I can't live off that. The amount of times that I've almost had to stop making videos since then has been almost monthly. I've barely been able to keep this afloat. I've paid my rent late most months for the past year. The cruel and untrue things that you say about another person do in fact have direct impacts on them and the way that people culturally see them. It's why
they're talking about the video you produced, brother. They're characterizing statements you made in a video. It's a taste of your own medicine. They are cultural critics of you as you are a cultural critic of other media. Of your output, rather, they are a cultural critic. Sure. Yeah, negative reviews can affect an actor, a producer, a director, a studio's output, a YouTuber's output. Live by the sword, die by the sword. That's fine.
I've pushed my Patreon so much in the past year, even though I know it's annoying as fuck to do, because it is literally the only resource that is keeping this thing going after what happened. And you could say there's other contributing factors that led to the decline over time. It is true that
but literally everything but me is why this happened.
views have gone down for everyone. But if you look at the hard data, there really is a clear line here with The Hills Have Eyes. I had just come off of one of my biggest hits ever with In Defense of Nicolas Cage, and then my next video after Hills, still to this day, only has 73,000 views. And I just personally believe that there has to be something that caused that kind of shift. And you know, I know that people have the right to say whatever they want about me, and that maybe it is foolish for a creator to try and fight back against a public response. I have said many times that once you release something, that it is public and no longer fully yours.
Yeah.
And I still believe that. But at the same
time, I want an easy paycheck.
time, I do think that a conversation around a work or topic can be wrong or even misguided, which...
So do the commenters criticizing you! That's what they're saying! That's what they're saying! They agree, and they think you're wrong and misguided. Holy fuck! My G, you're just saying no you to them. I'm losing it.
I obviously think happened here. I think it is within my right to talk about this on my own channel. And if you have said these things about me or to me, that is totally within your right to do. But I do want to ask you to consider why you're actually still saying them to me still 2 years later. What point are you trying to make besides baseless general cruelty? Are these your own genuine original thoughts and criticisms that you have based on my actual work?
Sorry, babe, I'll keep it down. I just got, I'm sorry.
My views have never actually changed, which I think is the necessary thing needed to be a good critic. Perspective. You have to be able to...
My views have never changed, which I think is necessary to be a good critic. Is that what he's saying? I've stagnated. Why aren't my views still going up?
To clearly articulate your personal perspective and values in life and in art to do this job. And on that front, I have not changed.
And people reject it.
Since I started doing this. I've gotten better at expressing those ideas, but the core has always remained.
I love that he's painted himself into a corner of people liked me because I couldn't properly articulate my ideas. How must it feel to him that he now has to wrestle with the thought, I can now articulate my ideas more clearly and exactly as I want, and people don't fucking like it. Bro, your model of what happened is people only ever liked you because you fucked up saying what you really mean. What a pathetic existence.
I was sitting in a doctor's office 2 years ago now, mentally dealing with everything that was going on, believing that my career was over, reading comments about what people were saying about me, and just generally, feeling pretty bad about myself.
He was hospitalized by YouTube comments. Just stop, you can't do this. You can't do this. Profession is not for you. Sure, mental struggles are real. People deal with stress. I deal with stress. I have problems with stress. Stress from YouTube comments and views? You can't do YouTube if that gets to you that hard. You have to stop or you're going to die. Or just stop sucking. 2 options. Don't really see that possibility for you.
When I read something by a Reddit user going by the name John Latour, who made me so happy that I actually cried sitting there in public reading that, because I felt like it was the first time that someone had publicly seen and understood the situation that I was in.
Hey. Being content in yourself? Validation coming from within? No. YouTube comments. Outsource your sense of self-worth to the horror community. I would suggest that's a terrible idea.
And saying that they understood what I was going for and that my treatment had not been fair. One person had said about me, he really is amazing when he can keep from white knighting for women and minorities. When he does that, he starts misinterpreting shit just to shoehorn things into whatever agenda he is trying to push. I lost it when he was trying to defend the mutants from The Hills Have Eyes as representative of the minority underclass and that we should actually sympathize with the horrific rapist monsters. Like, I highly doubt that was the point of those movies at all. To which John calmly responded, if you want to watch horror movies for what they are on the surface level of tension, scares, and kills, that's totally fine. But tons of horror movies are deserving of a more contextual analysis, and many had...
Right, so this straw man made you cry happiness. That person is disagreeing with the idea that that particular film contains that message. They're not saying don't analyze it. They're saying they think he's shoehorning that message when it doesn't actually exist. That person is engaging in the same level of analysis. They're just disagreeing. Okay.
If you're not aware, Wendigoon is a horror conspiracy theorist YouTuber with several million subscribers that, as you will hopefully come to see, should not be seen as the wholesome southern...
Is he a conspiracy theorist YouTuber? He talks about conspiracy theories, and he does iceberg videos. I haven't looked at him for a long, long time. A long, long time. I think even just characterize him as conspiracy theorist YouTuber is sketchy from what I'm aware of.
Friendly dad persona that he has publicly constructed around himself in the past several years, and that, like many people who talk about being Christians as much as he does, has a dark past with deep ties to far-right extremism. On a base level, his work has never been of personal interest to me. We share a similar focus on topics that we like to write about.
Can't help but notice, brother, that you're wearing a Hawaiian shirt. Yourself? In Praise of Shadows, are you a boogaloo boy?
But our similarities basically end there. I have no need or desire to hear 5 hours of opinions on Blood Meridian from a 21-year-old millionaire who got famous around the age of 19. And I know that is probably the most boomer thing that I have ever said. Apologies for that. But I say that to argue that I really do think that there are some...
But I say that because I'm insanely envious and hate my life.
...works that are really not intended to hit the right way and...
You can hate... Look, I'm sure there are reasons to hate Wendigoon. I'm sure they exist. Whatever. Don't really watch his things anymore. I just saw some iceberg videos. This man has, granted, we skipped a huge amount because I was getting sick of him. He's given us a transparent window into his blackened heart. Well, I could imagine someone hating Wendigoon for a reason that has to do with Wendigoon. This guy hates him because he wants to be him.
Till we're older. There are some works that fundamentally will not be understood by you if you are wealthy and have always been upper class your entire life. And this may all sound condescending, but that doesn't stop it from being somewhat true. I don't mean that to think that you shouldn't be able to say or publish whatever you like at any point in your life. You're obviously free to do so. And I also don't want it to be seen as if I'm talking down to young people, because I'm not. Politically, they are frequently the most with it, and their voices should be heard on issues that pertain to them. They are looked down upon too often in our culture. What I'm talking about here pertains to the very act of writing itself, and with that, perspective. And I don't know if you can actually really truly be a good cultural critic with a voice that has a definitive perspective, without several years of genuine, independent, lived experience away from the home that you were raised in. And in his case, he became
This is so pathetic. This is insanely embarrassing.
Exceptionally wealthy by the time that he was 19 or 20. And so if you leave the home and immediately become famous and rich, without having to ever actually truly struggle, can you be considered to have ever actually had lived experience at all that would qualify you to give criticism on works of art about the
Qualify you? No qualification is needed. In fact, you're suggesting that he has a unique perspective. You might not like it. It might be utterly unrelatable, sure. Qualified? What are you talking about? Unique, probably, possibly.
Experience of average and poor people. I would argue not. And if that is the case, why would your perspective matter as a critic? Not to mention the fact that Wendigoon was...
Oh, in Praise of Shadows, you think your perspective matters? How embarrassing. Matters. Jesus Christ. Delete your YouTube. Delete it. Just get rid
raised
of
in a
it.
very wealthy family, and with that comes from a wealthy perspective. He himself has inadvertently admitted that his family at one point had millions of dollars. When he said once on stream, "Would you believe me that when my dad was young, he used to be in an organized crime gang and is now a Sunday school teacher? Very wild life that guy's lived. He was in an organized crime gang that my grandfather ran. A lot of bad things went down. They got investigated by the FBI. My grandpa went to jail. My dad had to testify and tried to take up the business.
Okay.
The business fell apart, and he ended up losing millions of dollars to the state.
Did you know that people conceived of the cum of a criminal cannot interface with art? This is deep lore I was unaware of regarding creative works.
Everything, found God, became a Christian, and is now both the best man and the best Christian I've ever met. But also, I'm not even here to criticize his body of work. I think his videos are very uninteresting. But ultimately, that is secondary to what makes him work.
He's boring and shouldn't get more views than me. I mean, actually, he's bad. We've got a piece of art, an original piece of art, a depiction of me watching this video, an interpretation of my inner feelings while witnessing this piece of art.
The first of which are the very strong beliefs that he seems to hold as important, that are in my opinion the antithesis of what horror should be about.
This critic holds strong views that are the antithesis of what horror should be about. I cannot relate.
There are many things that are red flags that we could talk about, from the bizarre gun ownership, the flagrant use from
Bizarre gun ownership? You're gonna have to explain. It wasn't even just from gun ownership. If he said from gun ownership, I could be like, I get why he'd say that, but he's probably anti-gun or something. My man said bizarre gun ownership.
My perspective, of his religion as a shield from criticism, to the belief that he at one point followed many far-right accounts on Twitter, from Kyle Rittenhouse to Parler, the social media website where the January 6th insurrection was in part planned. People said, oh, he only followed them, but that doesn't...
Bro, children get contacted on Twitter and then abducted and raped, and you use that website. Off.
mean that he agrees with them, but there are screenshots of tweets that may have been deleted. They clearly, in my mind, show a support to Rittenhouse. Although, since I did not take these screenshots, they do have to be taken with a grain of salt. But in relation to everything else that we're going to talk about here, to me it seems...
But if he shows me something and says it's a screenshot, I have to believe it and can't take anything he says or shows me with a grain of salt. Okay.
to fall in line with his general beliefs. These have been widespread across the internet, and to my knowledge, I can find no examples of him directly saying that these are not real. So he may or may not have actually followed these accounts or supported them. But I do not believe that he has ever outright said that this did not happen, so take that as you will. Okay. We could talk about his past and supposedly being a founding member in an online conspiracy theory group that, according to him, snowballed out of control into being a white supremacist neo-Nazi organization called the Boogaloo Boys. His online username at the time was Boogaloo Boy.
Curious though, isn't it? Curious that this fellow is wearing a Hawaiian shirt. Is this a dog whistle?
And he claims to be the first to have started using it, but that he left the group and became Wendigoon after things started to get out of hand. And this is not a conspiracy theory in itself. Shockingly, he literally has said so in writing. As you'll see, he was just like, oh geez, sorry guys, about starting a violent hate group guys. Sorry that people got killed. I totally didn't mean to do all that. My bad. I'll do better next time. Also, it should be noted that the Boogaloo Boys are known for wearing Hawaiian shirts. And guess who else always has on a Hawaiian shirt? Despite...
You? Is this video secretly based? Like, what is happening? Oh.
Despite the fact that he publicly totally does not share in their beliefs, guys. I'm just saying that if at the...
Right, but if he killed his entire family and ate their corpses, why do I care? Why does that matter to me besides being interesting?
Very least I, in any way whatsoever, somehow accidentally, inadvertently, started a hate group, I wouldn't continue to still dress like them if it were me. It would make me...
But you decide to dress like them in this video. What are you... Is this a joke? Is this him telling us the whole video's a gag? Have we been trolled? Did I get stung by a troll and this is just a Poe and I couldn't tell because he was being...
It looked like I still believed in their cause, and that I just couldn't talk about it because people would publicly get mad at me. If I accidentally started a hate terrorist organization, I wouldn't rebrand as a horror YouTuber the next year, and instead would try and fight that ideology as much as I could. And if
So really, he doesn't deserve any of his subs. I should have those subs. I should have those subs. He needs to dedicate his life to guerrilla warfare against militias in the US. I think that would be good. Now, I don't have to do it because I didn't start them, but I think he needs to do it. And maybe if he didn't put out videos, the people who watch his videos will have to watch my videos.
If I didn't do that, then it would probably be fair for people to assume that I still agreed with their actions.
If I didn't go to war with a militia, that means I must agree with them. Come on.
Point he posted on his subreddit and wrote, "Someone asked me about my old Boogaloo Boy persona, so I made my response and thought I'd share it to set the record straight. Again, I hate being political, but I wanted to clear this up. Love y'all, thanks." The statement that he included with this read, "Alright, so I'll go ahead and make my official statement here, because better to come straight from me. Over 2 years ago, I was among the first to begin using the term Boogaloo. Originally, it was a rendition of Che Guevara's, not that he was a good person by any means, code word for revolution, and I have always been a proponent of freedom and liberty. I believe in the divine rights of every human, and therefore, aspects of self-independence are important to me. So I began using the word in small settings, and then decided to make a meme page using the name as no one had yet done so. To give you an idea, my name was Boogaloo Boy, and several have pointed to me as being the original and started the Hawaiian shirt thing, as I've always just worn those shirts. However, as the term became mainstream, more ideas began to come into the group. Everything from Antifa members to fascists wanted in on it, and the original idea became muddled and broken. I always meant it as a for the people thing, yet it quickly became something else. To give you an idea, I watched the same news station call it a far leftist movement and a far right movement in the same day. It became something I didn't want to be a part of, and so I left. I dropped the name, took
I disavow Hawaii.
a break, and decided to talk about things I enjoyed like conspiracies and movies, under the new title, Wendigoon. It was something I acknowledge, but am not a part of anymore for what it became. Some of my current followers and friends were with me then, but I'm not a part of that anymore. So, do you remember when armed men were arrested a few years ago for planning the kidnapping of Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmire? That was the Boogaloos. Do you remember when white people showed up at the George Floyd protests and caused property damage and violence in the hopes that black people would be blamed for that? That was the
Okay, I would say you're the conspiracy theorist YouTuber.
Boogaloos. A great deal of their members were spotted in the Capitol during the January 6th insurrection. In 2020, they killed several police officers in a drive-by shooting in Oakland.
The Boogaloo Boys have taken over the Big Island in Hawaii.
The reason they use the word Boogaloo is in reference to a meme that says Civil War II Electric Boogaloo, obviously in reference to the 1984 film Breakin' 2 Electric Boogaloo. Okay, so let's take a closer look at some of the phrasing of his official statement. First off, I have tried and failed to find any connection to the word Boogaloo to Che Guevara. In fact, when you Google Che Guevara Boogaloo, you just get things related to Wendigoon. When you type in Che Guevara word for revolution, you get things related to Wendigoon. Che Guevara died in 1967, and the earliest example of the word Boogaloo that I can find was in 1966, in relation to the musical style. So I would wager that that is more than likely a lie, to cover his actual intentions and sympathies that he held as a seemingly radicalized teenager.
Where do you think it came from then? If he's the originator of its use in this way, where did he get it from then? Are you saying he made it up? So, if he took it from somewhere else that was already using it this way, then he's not the originator, bro. What is he suggesting?
According to the Center for Strategic and International Studies, the word Boogaloo began to appear in online forums related to hate content on 4chan somewhere between 2010 and 2012, when, Wendigoon would have been about 10 to 12 years old. Specifically, I have seen multiple times that it is believed to have been born on gun-related forums. I can find no evidence that within their organizational structure, that they have any allusion to their values starting or being connected to Che Guevara in any capacity.
That doesn't mean that Wendigoon doesn't believe that. You're gonna have to find something concrete on him, brother. So you are saying he's not the founder. That's not real. You've said he's not the founder. So everything you've just said about him needing to be responsible for them and whatnot, you've thrown that away. Is it possible that these people misled Wendigoon? He got information that spun off of their stuff that was incorrect.
So claiming he was the first to start using it, or among the first, is not true, and is frankly a bizarre claim to make. By the time he would have made his Boogaloo Boy username, the word would have already had a near decade of being entrenched into the deepest layers of alt-right internet radicalized extreme racism. He wants to simultaneously be seen as distance from the organization.
Damn, that sounds cool.
But still dresses like them on a daily basis, and fully takes responsibility in claiming that he started their movement, that was already in motion at least 7 or so years before his involvement, which
He's lying. He's not the creator of this movement that is super evil. What are you...
To me just kind of seems like he enjoys taking the credit for that. As historically, he already had an out that he was in middle school when it truly actually began. And if he's lying about these things, it just makes me wonder, what else is he lying about? And
if he's lying about being the founder of the Boogaloo Boys, what else is he lying about?
Difficulty in seeing the lies in between the things that are true is always the point with these kinds of people, who say, for instance, that they do not believe in far-right hate, while doing something else at the same time, such as wearing a distinctly coded Hawaiian shirt that would be understood by the initiated.
What are you doing? I'm not sure if this is a joke or not. What are you doing?
As Jared Thompson puts it, who works with the Transnational Threats Project that focuses on the...
Are you going to show... He said distinctly coded. Distinctly coded. Show us how it is distinctly coded. Show us their standards for how this Hawaiian shirt must be.
Of digital terrorist networks. Boogaloo memes and slang are often deployed in similar formats, and using similar language to more mainstream internet discourse, creating a challenge in parsing the difference between complex inside jokes and memes that are used as a tool of Boogaloo extremism. Then, Wendigoon would go on to say that the organization was corrupted by the left and the right equally, but I can find no evidence that the left ever tried to co-opt an organization that actively desires a race war.
He said that occurred within his group, did he not? His online meme page, he says, was infiltrated by Antifa and alt-right, is what he said.
In America. Just on the surface, that makes no sense. And on top of this, people who are centrist, or on the left, do not use the phrasing Antifa members. The only people who say that are the ones that see Antifa as some sort of homogenous radical left-wing activist.
This isn't true. Antifa say this about themselves, but say not to say it publicly. If you look, for example, at even mainstream documents regarding it, like the Anti-Fascist Handbook, it includes advice to never talk about yourself that way externally, but internally to organize that way and have an inner circle of leadership and people you consider members that leadership can draw upon but aren't fully trusted. There are multiple... Well, Antifa is not one organization. There are multiple Antifa organizations. The same way that neo-Nazism isn't an organization, there are many neo-Nazi organizations.
As opposed to a general term for anti-fascist movements. He is kind of telling on himself by saying Antifa members, as if they are part of an organized political militia, like many alt-right groups are, such as the Boogaloos, and saying that there was harm and violence.
No, it functions the same. You think over all these years, no one has formed a single anti-fascist organization? Damn, you're fucking useless at fighting fascism then if you can't even form one organization. What are you talking about? Insane.
Perpetrated on both sides is the kind of language that other fascists, like Trump, say to disorient people into not seeing far-right extremism for what it is. He makes the bizarre false claim that he invented the use of the word boogaloo as a for-the-people kind of thing, and he doesn't believe in what that group did with his idealization of anti-government ideals, and also wants it to be very clear that he is not a political person. But to my ears, this is all conservative doublespeak. And I hope that this is becoming obvious to you as well. In my opinion, there is a regular pattern of behavior there, from supporting Rittenhouse to having multiple ties to other far-right extremist figures, that I think a clear picture is painted that he does not mean this as a communist kind of thing,
Brandon?
and seemingly more so means people as a very select group. Wendigoon is very publicly friends with Turkey Tom. They have been...
Oh, that's pretty good.
seen together on multiple occasions.
Forget the associations I can make with Trump, the fascist. He's seen to be friends with Turkey Tom.
And I've seen online mentions that Tom was either at his wedding or at the very least was invited. Tom has been accused of using the N-word multiple times in private conversations, including these screenshots of text that are alleged to be real. And he's also been accused of saying that
These screenshots of text are alleged to be real. Jesus Christ, you are the saltiest bitch in existence. I thought the salt level was at max at the beginning. What is this?
tiers of his Patreon were intended for Jews with deep pockets. Wendigoon is publicly connected to the Internet Historian, and has even appeared in his videos. The Internet Historian publicly said that his birthday was April 20th. It is not, and has only said that as a joke because that is Hitler's birthday.
Only? Damn, 20th of April? What else is that, besides Hitler's birthday? What else happens then? Only possible reason is Hitler's birthday? Chat, I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna say some words I promised I'd never say. Hopefully this doesn't get me in trouble, but I think I need to say it about this guy. I'm just gonna do it. Bad faith. I think he's being disingenuous. I don't think he believes this. I think he's saying it in the hopes that other people will believe this, but I don't think he believes this.
Wendigoon is publicly friends with Donut Operator, and even retweeted a photograph of the two of them hugging. Donut Operator is a gun-crazed, very far-right YouTuber with 4 million subscribers, whose career consists of him reviewing footage of police officers shooting and killing people. He was once a cop himself, before he made more money making YouTube videos and retired. His content
Not being a cop, reviewing cops.
Is very pro-state, pro-cop, pro-gun, and pro-death to people who don't share his beliefs propaganda. For example, one of his videos is titled, Predator Takes Shotgun to the Face, and
Bro, you have to show us that this guy is not a pedophile, or you're saying, sorry, your example of him wishing for death of people who disagree with him is child rapists. This isn't working for you, brother.
Features a picture of him smiling in the corner of the thumbnail next to an image of a terrified man about to be executed by cops, with the text that reads, head removal.
Hi everyone, Donut here. We got a couple of shootings for you today. The main shooting just warms my heart.
And you know, for someone who supposedly is so very anti-government, Wendigoon seems very comfortable with a man who makes...
I don't know what to say about this In Praise of Shadows guy now. That's Okay. People pro-death of people who don't share my beliefs, like people who think it's okay to actively seek out children to rape. Cool.
Says living worshiping violence committed by the state. He's a man of no.
Yeah, it was a pedophile video all along. You guys said watch a pedophile video instead. The pedophile video was in front of us all along.
Conviction, claiming to be very against the government and for the rights of the people, while at the same time giving a warm embrace to one of the biggest fascist bootlickers on the internet. And the only thing that one could reasonably gather from this picture of them hugging is that he...
Fascist bootlicker supporting the death of child rapists. My brother, stop. Why do people hate me? Why do people say I'm a freak? Hey, if you thought what people say about you because of your Hills Have Eyes video is bad, wait until masses of people see these clips, brother. If you thought it was bad before, you just cut your own fucking nuts off, brother. You look like a pedophile. What are you doing? What are you doing?
2 is a fascist bootlicker himself. He has collaborated with Nick Crowley, who constantly makes money through the most morbid and shameful true crime content of showcasing the last minutes of people before they are suddenly and unexpectedly killed. Crowley is similar to Wendigoon, in that on the surface they seem fairly edgy but clean enough. But then you notice that he follows less than 200 people on Twitter, and among them are the same circle with names like Wendigoon, Plagued Moth, Turkey Tom, mrballen, and Donut Operator. Wendigoon has collaborated with Plagued Moth, a completely shameful content creator who reviewed snuff films on his Patreon before it was taken down, and is
Mrballen just like reads stories and people's accounts of stuff, doesn't he?
been accused of showing genuine gore content to minors on Discord, and whose main YouTube channel consists of him reviewing censored videos of horrible acts of real-life violence and death. He is publicly friends with Shoe on Head, who is a conservative masquerading as a leftist, who is...
Oh shit. The most dangerous individual. Shoe on Head. She'll send out her assassins, the 3 brain cells she has, to attack you.
Complaining about SJWs, who says stuff like, Karl Marx rising from the grave finding out his movement has been taken over by fat, ugly, mentally ill losers. He is friends with Brandon Buckingham, a gun user.
Yeah, I don't think Marx would approve of you guys. Probably. Unless you funded him being able to drink and they like paid his rent.
He is friends with Brandon Buckingham, a gun YouTuber who has been accused of threatening rape. He is friends with...
Yeah, accused of threatening rape. Accused of threatening to do something. He allegedly threatened something.
With Oompaville, a gun-obsessed content creator that has taken advantage of Nakado Avocado's mental decline for fame and for money, and on top of that has made content with the human trafficker Andrew Tate. He is friends with Mutahar, who argued against Andrew Tate being deplatformed from social media websites, and has recently showcased a great deal of transphobia in his most...
Oh my god. Holy balls.
...recent video. He has publicly interacted in a friendly way with the account Rock Solid on multiple occasions, and with just a quick look at their profile, I saw them liking anti-trans posts and neo-Nazi content. He interacted...
You're ill, brother. You're so sick in the head. Unbelievable. He's on the level... He's like... The way in which he's messed up is on the level of WPC, despite having the higher IQ than W. Do you get what I mean? His mess up is less intellectual. He's less intellectually messed up than someone like WPC, but the degree to which he's... The quality is different, but the quantity is the same. Stop.
Positively with Disclose.tv, a far-right propaganda website that uses hate speech, engages in Holocaust denialism, and platforms neo-Nazis. He has appeared in content with Mr. Gunzengear, whose Twitter bio reads, dedicated to restoring the civil rights of Americans. But despite that,
he drinks Fanta, which was developed for the Nazis.
Tweeted negatively about trans people many times. He has interacted positively with Garant Thumb, who has said, the traditional family should be encouraged and strengthened. I see little to no support from the government or big media. He has said...
Am I supposed to gasp?
Anti-trans statements. He has called people degenerates, and has said that non-traditional sexual interactions are a disgusting hedonistic lifestyle. That is the breakdown of the family unit.
Stop. Why are you being so... Non-traditional sexual lifestyles are bad. He's talking about swinging. Swinging is a disgusting hedonistic lifestyle and is the breakdown of the family unit. Yeah. Yeah.
Wendigoon is publicly friends with Brandon Herrera, who has made jokes that implied that he was sympathetic with public shooters who killed leftists, and collaborated with Kyle Rittenhouse, who has posted images of himself with an...
Who made jokes? Oh no.
MP40, which is a gun used by the Nazis, that he described as the original ghetto blaster. I've also seen people insinuate that Herrera was... with Wendigoon in the days of being part of the Boogaloo movement, but I cannot find substantial proof on if this is true or not. But I've seen several comments saying this, so online it is at least culturally believed to be true. Culturally believed to be true. He has appeared in gun-related content with Haley Luan, an influencer whose content is based entirely around making the United States military appear fun and bizarrely sexually appealing, which again, for someone who is supposedly anti-government...
Yeah, fuck that. Fuck those psyops. do not die for Israel or Taiwan.
He sure does seem to have a lot of wealthy white friends who actively work to uphold the values of the American empire. Or we could talk about the time that he stole art to use in promotional material for his videos, and then blamed it on his editorial team instead of just taking the responsibility. Then, of course, there is his username. To the Algonquin people, the Wendigo is a negative spiritual symbol that is to be avoided and whose name is to never even be said out loud or written down. So I know
I don't give a shit. I say what I want. Not on Twitch, though. Unless it will get me banned. You're not my god or my master, my dad, or a Twitch admin. You don't tell me what to say.
there's a bit of a hypocrisy there on my part, but we kind of do have to say it for academic purposes, so apologies for that. Starting with Algernon Blackwood's horror short story called The Wendigo. People have for hundreds of years taken the creature and used it for their own means, including Wendigoon in his very name.
Taken the creature and used it for their own means. I, for one, am righteously using it to try and cancel a YouTuber I'm envious of. Every morning I milk my Wendigoon.
Which is something that indigenous people have been very critical with him now for years. This next thing that I'm trying to argue...
The Native Americans demand their Wendigoon back. Please return the evil cannibal spirit to us. We need it. Please.
is not to discredit his feelings regarding to his own personal history. But what I will say is that Americans who are white or partially white in rural areas love to claim a percentage of native heritage for bizarre conservative reasons, relating to, like, reverence for the land and fascistic nostalgia for a time that never existed and stuff like that. He has attempted to deflect from criticism over the use of the name by saying that his grandfather was Native American, and that he learned these things culturally through him. But I personally have to look at it from the hypothetical perspective, where, say I had a black or mixed grandfather in this situation, and black people were telling me that I was doing something that was racist or offensive to them. I would then listen to what they were saying instead of claiming that I had the right to do it, because I
Yeah, but what would that thing be?
had some melanin in me, especially if I were more or less raised within a primarily white cultural area like the Appalachian Mountains are. And also on top of that, just, frequently associated myself with white supremacists. There are 26 million people in this region, and well over 80% of them are white, with the majority of the others being Latinos. And if I had no cultural connection around me to that non-white percentage of my history, then what really would give me the right to dictate whether or not what I was doing was appropriate? I really would have no ground to stand on. The other thing that I would add to this is that Wendigoon and I are practically neighbors, and I know this area very well. Okay.
Where are we going?
So I live in Asheville, North Carolina, and between that and the reservation, you have the community of Lake Junaluska, which isn't actually even a real town. You can walk across the whole thing in a matter of minutes. You got Waynesville, you have Maggie Valley, and a few other small drive-by communities. And beyond that is the Cherokee Reservation. Wendigoon lives somewhere just on the other side of the reservation. That is not me doxing him. He has said many times publicly that he lives in East Tennessee, and I'm not even saying what town he lives in. According to the latest census, there are only 23 black people who live in Maggie Valley. There are 15 Native Americans despite it touching the reservation. Most of this area used to be sundown towns. It is about as white as you could possibly get. Deep Appalachia is very white country, and for the most part, is exceptionally racist. Genuinely in this part of the country, you have to assume that any white person you meet is racist unless they show you otherwise. Almost all of these little towns are well over 90% white, but if you were to drive through
Hey, are you going to do crime statistics next? These whiteoids here are overwhelmingly racist. Therefore, I'm going to assume Wendigoon is. You want to apply that to some other things, my friend?
Maggie Valley, you would find antique stores selling busts of Native American braves, carved wooden eagles, vintage paintings of buffalo, super racist generalizations that
Damn, I can't believe Wendigoon did that. What?
idealize the idea of the noble, good kind of Native American. And then you'll drive onto the reservation, and it's just run down and poor as shit except for the casino. He has said that the Wendigoon name came from his cultural connection to Native lore through his grandfather's side, but I can assure you that unless you were on the reservation itself, that actual Native culture has no aspect in the general lives of the people around here, other than the
You don't know his life. He might be lying. You don't know his life. Who's his granddad? Here, ladies and gentlemen, we have his media literacy being applied to real life. To similar results. Incredible. He can read reality like a movie and just know what's true, based on absorbing it from around him.
racist trinkets that depict them. And as I said a moment ago, the Wendigo is Algonquin, who are nowhere close to the vicinity of the Cherokee, who are in the southern Appalachia region, and throughout the lower sections of Middle.
Is it possible that his grandfather is native, but also wrong about the culture? Or, moved? Could happen. What if his granddad lied to him? Is that his problem?
America. The Algonquin people are Canadian, and a little bit Northern American. To insinuate that he can use the Wendigo name by citing local cultural native customs is completely absurd to a person who lives in the same general vicinity as he does.
Right, but what if he thinks it's native because his grandfather told him? Or because it came from his grandfather and they lived there, for instance?
It is obvious that he just thought Wendigos were cool, and has come up with some seemingly strange backstory lie that is easily proven to not be true, unless, his grandfather is Algonquin and just moved to Tennessee. But if that were the case, I don't know why he wouldn't just come out and say that by now. And the reason why he doesn't is because it isn't true. There's a lot of bizarre religious-like mythology.
If he's lying about all this, why wouldn't he just lie that, though? Think about that. Why couldn't he just lie that?
Around his past that I particularly hate. Like it always being said that his interest in cryptids and horror began with oral folktales in Appalachia that are passed down and told to children.
Like, what the fuck are the natives gonna do to him anyway? Send a Wendigo after him? They're not real. Those natives are being like an autist who's obsessed with Pokemon and is like, it's my thing, you can't talk about Pikachu. It's all just made up shit. It's not really yours.
Assure you, as someone who lives near him and has for most of my life, this is total bullshit, and is some weird, false, cultural, imaginative idealization of the American South that is not actually true to the real Appalachia. We aren't sitting around at night talking about the goddamn Mothman and shit. I even came from a poor family, and he didn't. When I was a kid, I have seen people riding into towns on horseback. He admits to being raised by millionaires who got their money from crime. He just likes spooky stories, which is fine. So do I, obviously. But to come up with some weird, folksy reason as to why he became a folklore YouTuber that somehow culminated with the destiny of local oral tradition is the kind of language that is used by members of a cult of personality. They might as well claim that he was born on a fucking mountaintop. Nobody talks about it. But don't you think it is extremely weird and off-putting that all of his fans call him Dad? Isn't that...
Don't you think it's off-putting? Shouldn't they be off-put? This guy spent an hour complaining that people didn't like one of his videos, how horrible that is, and now he's trying to pull that on someone else. He's trying to pass his curse on to Wendigoon, but he's just spilling spaghetti everywhere.
Really strange? What follows is an exchange between two anonymous indigenous people about how they feel about him and his behaviors. I
don't give a shit.
Watching a YouTuber named Wendigoon for a long time, and I noticed that his username always made me feel weird. He often uses Wendigo imagery in his merch, and made it a part of his brand. He says that his grandfather is Cherokee, and taught him the legend, and I'm not going to make a...
Guys, I think Wendigoon is literally possessed by a Wendigo and is gonna eat us all. We need to stop him.
Assumptions on if he is lying or not, but I feel really weird still. It feels really disrespectful to me to use that name. I'm not sure...
Respectful to me? Are you a f***ing cannibal demon that lives in a mountain?
If I'm being a baby about it, or if...
You are.
There's something wrong here. He has also said some shit about cultural appropriation that put up some serious red flags for me. The Wendigo comes from the Algonquin people. I don't think Cherokees come from that group. Plus, he's presenting the white people concept of a Wendigo. You can call him out, but he has 3.5 million subs. His community will probably hunt you down before you ever get him to shut down. What follows is the comment that they were referring to about cultural appropriation, where a native person called out Wendigoon for his use of their spiritual symbol, to which he said to them, I'm actually going to make a video on this in order to make a direct response, but for now, cultural appropriation is a good way to alienate one group of people from the other. Whenever society makes advancements in art and literature, and then another society gatekeeps others from interacting with it, it makes the creator seem inhuman and odd. The easiest way to create prejudice.
This isn't even cultural appropriation occurring. The best explanation I've had is they get butthurt when they do something and it's laughed at and considered bad, and then a whiteoid does that same thing and people go, that's so cool, and they're like, oh, you've taken it, you've made it cool only for you, it's like you've taken away from me. Or it's a cultural thing that uses a resource, and then suddenly people who aren't really invested in it start doing it and use up all of that resource, and then they can't do it anymore, and they get a bit... I can imagine being annoyed about that, but like an idea of a spirit or something, I don't give a shit if someone copies it. Like, why are you upset? Too bad.
Is to convince others that a group of people should not be interacted with. I have spoken to several natives who love the concept, yet only those who have no value in its existence say I shouldn't talk about it, inciting an indoctrinated superiority. Furthermore, when we stop talking about cultures, they die. This is especially applicable to native... Inciting and indoctrinated natives who love the concept, yet only those who have no value in its existence say I shouldn't talk about it, inciting an indoctrinated superiority. Furthermore,
inciting an indoctrinated superiority? I swear he messed up reading as well. Indicating, not inciting.
When we stop talking about cultures, they die. This is especially applicable to Native Americans, who use spoken word to pass down their stories. And if we do not continue to speak their stories, their culture dies before we do. Lastly, I was raised in Appalachia, and my entire life has been filled with stories of the mountains, and creatures that lurk in the dark. My culture is as American as any, and I recognize the importance in keeping the fire alive. I in no way mean this to attack, or to be direct, just a simple reply. If we develop the idea that we can't speak of certain people, then we're no better than those who silence them. He's basically using the I have a few black friends excuse to tell indigenous people to fuck off and to not bother him, so that he can continue without criticism to make a lot of money by selling plushies of a
True, cringe. He should unconditionally tell them to fuck off.
Monster that was invented by a white British man that is ultimately making fun of their culture, as well as plastic figurines, posters, shirts.
Making fun of their culture.
And other merchandise that depicts Wendigos. I don't know if he fully...
I wouldn't really say it is, though.
Realizes the irony of being a rich and famous person taking a symbolic figure from a smaller native group of people that he is not connected to in any way.
A rich and famous person taking something from a smaller native group of people? He's tribe-brained. He views Wendigo's subs as his tribe, and that being bigger than the Native Americans group. He's terminally subscriber-brained. He just described them as being smaller than Wendigoon. He's so fucked up, it's unbelievable.
A rich and famous person taking a symbolic figure from a smaller native group of people, that he is
He's one guy, the native group is a group.
not connected to in any way, that is at least in part to them originally used as a metaphor for colonialism. The reason that this comment is publicly still available is because Wendigoon archived it by posting a screenshot of it early in his channel's life to his Reddit page, as a clarification of his official position on why he should be able to use the name, saying, "Hey everyone, so I hate getting political, but this keeps coming up. I'm showing this comment reply now, so my opinions can be made known going forward. I've also blocked out the original commenter, and please do not show hate if you see it on the video. Also, I'm at 50k. I love you all so much. Also, I have received comments from natives who advise me not to use the term Wendigo, as it is a bad omen and is dangerous. That is entirely different from not talking about a group of people altogether. They genuinely believe the legend and want me to be safe. They're cool. Thumbs up emoji. It has become a more common thing for people to call him out on his beliefs, his behaviors, and at the continued use of the Wendigo in his name and the merchandise that he makes a lot of money off of.
Yeah, here's the thing, in Praise of Shadows, he's just fundamentally likable, and you're not. There's nothing you can argue to change or fix that. There's nothing you can do. There is no trick, there is no analysis you can do.
Became so much of a conversation that he even put out a statement, trying to shut this down, saying, "Some rude and slanderous things have been said about my character, and I just want to clarify that I am not right-wing or bigoted or anything, besides thankful for my opportunity to make goofy YouTube. The only thing I believe
Come on.
is loving God and my wife." Donut operator. You know, the ex-cop who makes death content. The Wendigoon shared a picture of the two of them hugging not long after this. Can be found in the comments of this post asking if Wendigoon wants him to...
Reminder, he makes pedophile death content in the context of what was referred to before as being unacceptable.
Start killing people who said that he was right-wing. I think that this is an all-time bad public statement that says absolutely nothing substantial. And that's the point. I quote-tweeted this and said, "Not that I have a stake in this whatsoever, but this is such a non-statement that doesn't even address any of the issues that folks are criticizing him for. Someone using their religion as a shield in the same breath, as claiming that they believe..."
When he's like, "Ooh, look how many likes I got. Let me zoom out to the likes."
Nothing politically is a oh, I'm just a goofy, wholesome boy. Please don't ask me why I follow less than 500 people and one of them was Kyle Rittenhouse. Don't ask me about all the guns that I post pictures of. I promise I have no strong beliefs. Apolitical, really. Why are you slandering me? I really only care about the...
This guy is such a bitch. When people do this to him, it's the worst thing in the world, unacceptable. When he does it to Wendigoon, it's right, it's righteous. Now, doing all this, actually all of it's fine. But this guy is a bitch for saying it's terrible when it's done to me. It's righteous when I do it to someone else. Look, this is the guy who says YouTube comments put him in the hospital. And he believes that's something it can do to you, and he wants to inflict that on someone else. What a fucking freak.
It's because if you have that large of a platform and make your money from being a public persona, then you are no longer fully a private person, and your political beliefs do in fact matter and are a fair topic of debate. You can't get mad if people call you unquestionable things that are said or done if you are making money off of them.
What if I'm... In Praise of Shadows, that's what most of this video is you doing.
And what resulted from some good faith criticism of his use of language was days upon days of people calling me a faggot, amongst other things, but that was their go-to word. And to be honest, if you're a public figure who is being criticized publicly, and the only people who come to your defense are Nazis, then that can only be read as two ways.
I don't think they're Nazis, you just really come off. You incite that word. You draw it to the front of people's minds.
Either that you're sympathetic to their views, or that you're perfectly fine making money from them, and are comfortable with that ideology being the backbone of your base. And this did go on for like at least a week, where every...
Here's something silly as well. The people tweeting are not the backbone of his base because overwhelmingly people don't comment. Anyone who types anything online is exceptional and not representative of the majority because the majority do not say anything. You're already an outlier.
Single time I said anything, my mentions were just filled with the most vile far-right rhetoric from Wendigoon fans. And if anyone ever criticized me, and people's reaction to it was to immediately start using hate speech, I would shut that shit down so fast.
No, you wouldn't. You couldn't. If I decided to go after people with hate speech on your behalf and you told me to stop, I'd do more.
I think that most decent people who work online would do the exact same. And if they don't want to be seen as a big group of Nazis, then let's see how they react to this video's existence. Because...
oh no, he's gonna try to do the thing where it's like, The response to feminist articles prove the need for feminist articles. I'm gonna act like a giant F-slur, and then if people call me an F-slur, that means I'm right about everything.
I am certain they will be very level-headed about all of this. Right in the midst of this going on, a very funny thing happened, and that Wendigoon followed me on Twitter. I was not following him at the time. He never publicly told people to stop calling me a fag. He never once reached out to me privately, but he did follow me, which means in my eyes that he 100% knew what was happening because I did tweet about it several times, and then followed me to let me know that he knew, and that he was watching and that he intended to do nothing to stop it.
Wendigoon Twitter raped me. No, Wendigoon just watched as I was Twitter raped, and he didn't even try to stop it. He just watched. He was there watching the whole time, and he just let it happen to me. Get off
Why else would he follow me in that exact moment? He has never interacted with a single one of my posts. Not one like, not one comment. We are not friends. But he does follow me. He follows next to nobody on Twitter. What other motivation could he have had there to follow me in that specific moment?
You're fucking schizophrenic, brother. You're insane.
Other than to be a method of quiet and deniable intimidation. What other way could that have been read?
Quiet and deniable. You see, Wendigoon followed me on Twitter because he knew that would make a little notification pop up that tells me that he's following me. Wendigoon meant to tell me that he's literally following me in real life.
From my perspective. If you think it was entirely coincidental, which he may argue it was, then I've got a sack of magic beans I'd like to sell to you. That was the moment that pushed me over the edge to make this video. There are other very public instances from him of transphobia and
That was the moment the Wendigooning went over the edge.
homophobia. Like when he allegedly said, calling Christian, a man who mutilated his body with a box cutter because 4chan said he was a girl, holds a deep hatred for men and most women, decided to be a girl so that he could hook up with lesbians, and now abused his mom. She is disrespectful to and delegitimizes trans people. Like he, a very publicly straight married Christian cis.
There are progressives. There are people who might be considered progressives who kind of agree with that take. Friend of the channel, Card Posting, is almost in the ballpark of that.
Man, somehow is the authority on what legitimizes a trans person's identity. He has tried to cover this up and has denied that it happened. But I think there's enough evidence to say that it most likely did. One user said at one point, he's been constantly misgendering her on Twitter despite being corrected numerous times. To which Wendigoon said, show me one time I misgendered her on Twitter. Actually, please don't watch my content if you're going through my replies and monitoring followers, who may just be unaware of Christian's entire lore. Perhaps people just not knowing something doesn't mean that they're a transphobe. But if we go back and look at old screenshots from this time, you can see that this account is quote tweeting Wendigoon's transphobic tweet, but if you go to that account today, that post is now quote tweeting a deleted tweet, which to me shows that more than likely Wendigoon went mask off with his transphobia, and then deleted the tweet sometime afterwards, when he realized that people would be mad about it. But there's a very small chance that this is.
I think even if you're a pro-transoid, Chris Chan is a very exceptional individual. I think you're delusional. Even if you believe trans lore, trans mythology, I think even then Chris Chan's an outlier.
Not true because I did not take the original screenshot, so make of that what you will. We could talk about the time that Nyx Fears did a video about the disturbing movie Iceberg, who is a great horror trans creator, and I really hope that she's not mad at me for mentioning her here.
Horror trans creator.
Because I think she's very cool and you should definitely go read her books. But Wendigoon famously did a very popular video on that particular Iceberg challenge as well. And in the comments of her video, he said, "We will be watching your career with great interest," which is just kind of gross, because in a way it is similar to.
How is that gross? Showed support. And then this next person says, ooh, oh, oh.
Him following me. It is him telling her
they're into it.
That he sees that she's doing similar content to him, and his presence in the comments is undercutting her video, while he also at the
undercutting? You mean drawing his viewers in? This is a clout poison soy golem. Yeah.
Same time seemingly makes it look like he supports trans people. Like in the responses to his comment, people are saying things like, Wendigoon says trans rights, while meanwhile he's simultaneously tweeting about Christian
Do you recognize this? Do you recognize this? Hexlarious comedian. It's our boy from chat, Hexathian. It's his gay sex chart.
While meanwhile he's simultaneously tweeting about Christian multiple times. We could talk about another time, where someone made a YouTuber gay sex alignment chart and put
someone? Say his name. Say his name. It's Hexathian in chat. It's his chart.
Wendigoon as a sub-bottom, to which he responded
I can't believe that this isn't the version that I believe has me on. Unfortunately. That would be a whole other layer to this reaction.
them and said, "What did I do to hurt you?" Which, clearly is a joke, but also the worst kinds of straight guys when they make jokes related to queerness, almost exclusively direct the punchline at femme gays and bottoms, because they
Yeah, but Hex put him there, so...
view them as lesser than masculine tops. He has multiple times said that he supports
Hex called a straight man a sub-bottom. The absolute furthest away from his actual sexual identity. Surely this is... like, misorienting someone. Can we have misorienting someone if we have misgendering someone?
queer people, but I think his actions in private clearly paint a different picture. He once tweeted, saying, "I do not care if someone is gay or straight. Sexuality is
Oh God.
no one's business but the individual. Don't make assumptions. I make an effort to stay away from politics and social issues." Which, first off, equating sexuality with politics kind of already shows what you kind of think of the issue. And second off, clearly, as we have seen,
There's no way this guy doesn't consider issues related to sexuality to be political in a way. There's no way. I don't believe it.
everything that he does has deep political motivations, and to argue that he's just a horror YouTuber is comical. Far-right figures are often the only ones who hide their harm under a false shield of wanting to seem like they have no strong beliefs at all, because their real views are so socially abhorrent. And the thing that people kept saying to me in all of this was, "Why do you even care?" Which, if you watch the comments under the video, I guarantee you will happen again, with takes like, "Oh, he's just a YouTuber. Why does it matter?" Or, "So what if he's a conservative? Is that a problem?" Which, the answer to that is yes. But the reason that I
We must destroy him.
care is because this does not belong in horror, or anywhere. I care deeply about horror,
there we
and everything
go.
that he does
It was a setup for this. The AI thing was a setup for destroy the conservatives, cut them out of horror.
has demonstrated so far in his career that he should not be welcomed in our spaces, or even, just in public in general. I think that these things clearly showcase a repeated pattern, in my opinion, of racism and homophobia, while on top of that, being very irresponsible and dangerous with his large platform. Like, I think that anyone who supposedly accidentally starts a neo-Nazi hate group, and fully acknowledges that they did that, should not be accepted within society at all. They should not be celebrated. They should be
You don't think he did that?
treated for what they are. Because remember, kids, when somebody shows you who they are, believe them. They should not be celebrated. They should be treated for what they are. Because remember, kids, when somebody shows you who they are,
What a callback! That's what I said in my video that Xanderhold responded to.
believe them.
Right. I have to admit something to you guys. This video is AI generated. Sorry. I used that new Sona AI to generate videos. I typed in H-Bomber guy, but retarded.